1 in 3 combat veterans suffer with PTSD. Mood swings, night terrors, flashbacks, isolation, anger outbursts, even thoughts of guilt and hopelessness are some of the many symptoms. If left untreated, PTSD can spiral into other problems like panic disorder, substance abuse, deep depression, and even suicidal feelings. Now, it's classified PTSD as a traumatic brain injury, and treatment is not only possible, it's available 100% free. You see, the Lone Survivor Foundation was formed in 2010 by lone survivor and retired U.S. Navy SEAL himself, Marcus Luttrell, in an effort to provide the much-needed help, counseling, and programs to his fellow veterans, their families, spouses, children, and caregivers as a result of their military service, and again, 100% free. If you or someone you know are struggling with PTSD and the invisible wounds that it brings, you are not alone. You have battle buddies ready to help 24/7, 365. For more information on the Lone Survivor Foundation and its programs, again, all 100% free, visit lonesurvivorfoundation.org. But if you are suffering and you need help now, you're dealing with an overwhelming sense of depression and hopelessness, and you don't really know what to do, call the Veterans Crisis Hotline now at 800-273-8255, the number below, or simply text 838-255. The Lone Survivor Foundation is here to help as many combat veterans as possible suffering from these invisible injuries so that you and your loved ones can get back to leading the normal and fulfilling life and lives that you deserve. For all of our veterans, both active and inactive, those that are suffering, those that are in support, and their families, we want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for volunteering to serve this country and go arm in arm with your battle buddies and doing all that you've done. This conversation with Marcus Luttrell is very personal, and he offers not so much the story of Operation Red Wing, but who he is, what led him to become a Navy SEAL, and the man and husband and father that he is today after all of that. A lot of laughs, a lot of tears, a lot of OMGs. But this is truly one of the best conversations and most in-depth discussions that Marcus has ever had. We're honored to have him here. We're honored to have you watching and listening. And if you have any comments or any takeaways, feel free to comment below. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. Enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to this very special episode of 100% Tilted Discussions with Winning Underdogs. For those that are on audio, you don't see who's in the studio next to us right now, but this is one that for us as a group, as a company, is a distinct honor and privilege. Myself and Anthony got to meet this gentleman back in December at a luncheon here in Houston, and it is a unique opportunity to shake the hand of men who have done a lot for this country that many times people don't know a lot of the details. They may have known a part of the story, but they don't really necessarily know the man. And there's a lot to every one of us. But after his journey that was portrayed after he wrote the book, and the movie came out in 2013, directed by Peter Berg, with Mark Wahlberg, starring as our guest today. There's a lot in those layers that came through the book and the movie, but also the lessons being a United States Navy SEAL and the journey through leadership and discipline and life. And it is our honor to welcome today Mr. Marcus Luttrell.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Thank you, Marcus.
Spot. Yeah. That's good stuff, man. You're working it good, man. You got my eagle on your chest, my son's name on your sunglasses, or your glasses, bro. I'm like, what's up?
You know it.
Details matter, right?
That's it. That's it.
Well, for all those that maybe have heard somewhat, the book that you wrote, which as you called the debrief of what occurred in Afghanistan with you and your 3 brothers, that created this story that people were able to hear the true firsthand account of what occurred, which turned into a movie, Lone Survivor, in 2013. There's a lot with that. But, what a lot of people may not know is you have a twin brother.
I do. He's running for congressman right now.
Yes.
Which I guess now he's going to start to get the limelight.
We talked about that. I was like, here, cheers. Take it. Because we're identical twins. So growing up, everyone would always call me by his name, Morgan. He's 7 minutes older than me, but we're mirror twins. And on the right side, he's the left. Left-handed, left-eye dominant. I'm right-handed, right-eye
Really?
dominant. Yep. Every time we went, he had to drive. It was on the left side of the truck. So, I mean, it was one of those deals. But, yeah, it's then when all this happened, I got out, then everyone started calling him by my name. But he was still in for the longest time, so he couldn't even really talk to anybody. And then once he got out, and now it's about to shift again. I was like, hey, brother, you take it.
Yeah. Hey, you're Marcus's brother. That's
now I'm Morgan's younger brother, right? And they were joking, like, what happens if you're standing up in the halls of Congress and someone asks you? I was like, please do that. You want me to go vote? Sure, I'll be right there. It's not my fault you didn't recognize the difference. We're gonna have fun with it, but it was a blast. Our motto was just from the womb to the tomb. We came into this world together. We're gonna leave it together. So we're best friends. Yeah, we're inseparable.
As twins, and my wife with her, but they're not twins. But there's this connection, and I've heard this with twins too. That he was in the teams longer than you were. He was there for a lot longer. Were there things that you guys could sense just being twins that you guys have had?
Yeah, and there's witnesses to that.
Really?
Like when I got hurt real bad, he all of a sudden they were like, man, that brother got sick, started throwing up. He's like, something's wrong with my brother.
Wow.
And then when he was in a helicopter crash, I sat up in bed and I called and I was like, where's my brother? I couldn't get in touch with him. He was in the hospital from a helicopter crash.
Wow.
And, it's kind of like when you love something so much, and we came into this world together. I was a surprise. They didn't even know I was there. This was back in the day when they didn't have all that tech.
No kidding.
Yeah. But just like with your spouse or someone that you care about deeply, if something's going wrong, you can feel it. And we're kind of same heartbeat, same mindset kind of deal. It's just we're complete opposites, but the part that they separated us from are exactly alike. So if you get on the opposite end of him, it's people say we're night and day. The dude and Walter, there's many. I've heard a lot of things about it, but then in the closest part of us is absolutely inseparable.
Wow.
There's a lot of what he was leading to. There's also rivalries, isn't there, with the twin brother?
Sure. Well, it's that can go if you're not careful. You can push that into the wrong direction to where it's sibling rivalry where we hate each other. And I run across twins all the time, or brothers and sisters, and I don't ever talk to my brother. I'm like, well, why? Why would you not do that? I mean, your blood. It's like the best teammate ever. And you grow up with each other, you go through puberty with each other, go deal with all that stuff, man. They know everything about you. Why wouldn't you keep something like that around? It's an asset to have friends that long. The last fight or argument we ever got into, we were 17 years old. We made a promise with we both wound up in the hospital. And when we fight, it gets serious. And
imagine.
Yeah. We trained to be fighters our whole life. And after that, we made a promise. It's like never again. And we haven't. Not so much as
too dangerous.
Too dangerous, yeah. And we love each other so much that I just it's too dangerous. Right? Yeah, I couldn't imagine what happened now. Right now, we'd probably get too tired. All the time I go through was like,
need to catch my breath for a minute.
Yeah, just give me a second. Right? But now it's a team thing, and we do push each other. And even if I am getting to him, I was like, I'm not yelling, I'm motivating, right? That kind of thing. But I see things that he doesn't. He sees things that I don't. So when I come in, it's not me coming at him, it's me protecting him and pushing him and shoving him in the direction you got to go. Everyone needs that. Everybody has to have that. The minute you think you're down here by yourself and you got it all figured out, then you absolutely don't.
When you guys were younger, what part of Texas did you guys grow up?
Willis. Right down the road from y'all.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Back in the day, there used to be a separation between Spring, Houston, the Woodlands, and Conroe. Remember? Then you get to Willis and Waverly and up to Huntsville. And that's just steadily growing together.
Wow.
But, yeah, Willis.
Now, when you guys were little, seen different interviews with you and your brother, and but the thing that caught my attention was what actually got you guys interested in the SEALs, because you guys were pretty young.
Yeah, we were.
Weren't you?
Mm-hmm. It's customary for all our people in our family serving in the military. I mean, you can go back generations. We got somebody in there giving service. My father would always say, before you exploit this country, you're going to serve her in some form or fashion. And I didn't have any idea what that meant when I was a kid.
That's strong.
You know what I mean? We didn't know.
Yeah.
Because I come from a matriarchal family. The women run the show. The only time you ever saw my father or my uncles was when they came to whip our ass because we got in line with either our mom or somebody. And my father would say, look, I'm not your friend at all. He's like, I'm your father. And because there's a difference. And I still have the same friends I've had since we were kids. and I still do dumb things with my friends. You know what I mean? So when you have your kids on the ground, those are the one things you got to keep in check. We can't be friends with them.
Yeah.
And that, because discipline and respect. He would say, like, my shoes aren't here for you to fill. You can walk in them every now and again if you need them. But throughout your life, I'm going to give you one thing. It's going to turn into two. I'm going to give you discipline every day of your life. And through that, you're going to gain respect for yourself and respect for other people. The only time you ever lose your respect is when you lose your discipline. You're the only one that can throw that away.
Man, that's strong.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when we were growing up, like, it wasn't pushed on us. It's not a mandatory thing. It's kind of an understood thing. Even if you walk into my house, there's no awards on the wall. There's American flags and stuff like that, pictures of the family. But it's kind of like they let the kids grow up to see which direction they want to go in. Because your child is the next version of you. Just all the doors are shut. So if you want them to be exactly like you, you might have a tough time getting that done. Right? That's why they buck a little bit. But if you follow your new path and see where it goes, then whenever they say, I'd like to get interested in this, or I'd like to do this, then we hammer down and we train them and we get them ready. And that was the same way with the military. It was my brother's idea to do the SEAL thing. Because I didn't want to have anything to do with the military when I was growing up. I was a little bitty.
Really? Yeah.
We were identical twins. We were born early, 2 months. I was 4 pounds, 3 ounces. He was 3 pounds, 8 ounces. He died a couple of times. So growing up, I played tennis and was in drama and theater. Don't tell anybody that. High school and college.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. I graduated high school. I was 5'6", 154 pounds. We didn't grow like everybody else.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
When you graduated high school, 18 years old.
Yeah, my wife found my driver's license the other day. And,
Oh, man.
the good Lord dosed us up with the ugly armor. Our eyes were going different directions. Like, I had one of his, he had one of mine. We was always looking at each other. Whichever. They had to toss me off a mountain for him to straighten up. Isn't that funny? And, yeah, it was rough. But he had the idea of being SEALs. And we're not violent men. We are men of violence, though. We're well trained in it now. I mean, just even to this day, I got picked on a lot growing up, just like every other guy in this room probably. All right, and when I still get the butterflies when something's about to go, I can feel it before it even happens now. Right? You know when the tension walks in before whatever's thrown it does.
Yeah.
And so I still feel that. And back then it would kind of, I'd get apprehensive, but now I know what to do with it. Like now I turn my attention to it, and I still hate. Hate's probably not the right word, but because I try to stay away from it because I've gotten to where I'm proficient in it, and then there's an appetite for that.
We are highly trained.
Right.
Yeah. It's different than an average Joe.
Well trained.
Yeah.
Like you can't believe. And exactly. So when you get into it, triggers something, and you're like, okay. And I try to stay away from that, especially now that I'm married with kids. It's like I got all that out of my system then, so I could go do this now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And my brother and I pushed each other in that direction. It was his idea to be a SEAL. He came up with that. And this was before the internet and everything, so you had to have like a TV guide. Remember that book? You had to look in there and figure out what time the TV
Navy
show
SEALs
was.
Charlie Sheen.
Yep, boom. Bless that man, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you couldn't make it look any more cool being a Navy SEAL. When we stay on that boat and shoots that dude, he's like, never talk about mom.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Funny story real fast. Me and my brother and a couple of my other teammates were sitting around watching that movie a little while ago. And there's a scene in there where they launch out of a submarine and they float this boat up to the top. Yep. They set it up and they chase this boat down. They climb up and they take the boat down. We've done that in real life multiple times. And it is the hardest job on earth. It sucks so bad. It was miserable. Maybe want to get out of the military. But it's funny because, and that's the irony, because it's the scene that recruited me into the team. It's like, I want to do that.
The hardest thing ever.
The hardest thing, I was like, man, that looks so cool. God's like, okay, stand by. You know what I mean? And then you're locking out of that submarine in the pitch black ocean. The boat never inflates right. All the gear drops down, and then the engine motor won't start, and then the big boat's getting out of the way.
It's a cluster.
Yeah, if it can go wrong, it will.
Mr. Murphy's
you don't
run
see
every
that.
corner.
Yeah, Murph. Right? We had Murph with us all the time. Mike Murphy, right?
Yeah.
Put those two names together, Michael and Murphy. Yeah. So, I mean, you're like, it didn't go down like this in the movie. It looked a lot easier. But yeah, that was something. So when that came out, there was a documentary called The Silent Option that came online, and we would watch that. I mean, I can hear that theme music and the way that guy's voice. Like some of those guys in those documentaries, the guy's voice is like, this is the M68 one. And they just kind of go into it, and, just like, you just kind of get mesmerized by the voice, and it makes it sound all cool and made us want to do it. So we started training for it at a young age.
And what age were you guys?
Around 14.
how do you even start to know how to train to even get to that level to be,
That's a great question.
I'm going to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, that's a great question. So with anything you want to do, I mean, you want to be a bodybuilder, you want to be a professional athlete, whatever it is you want to do, you want to be a Navy SEAL, you want to be the president. Keep that in the back. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. Keep that word, whatever that is, back there so it reiterates whatever it is you're going through, what it is you're trying to accomplish. Because there's the overall goal, and then and each goal you set in your life has a pattern to get to it. It's like earning the respect of a lady, right? You can see her on the outside and see what she is, man, but there's a lot you're going to have to go through before you put that ring on her finger. Mm-hmm. And at any point in time when you're going through life chasing your goal and your dream, and you're like, man, I don't like this part. Well, that's part of it. It's not all going to be great and good. Mm-hmm. Actually, it is all great and good. We label things a certain way because they get hard for us. Like, we don't have bad days, we just have hard ones, and all that means is you haven't been trained for it. And in all actuality, you are training for it. That's what's supposed to happen. I mean, you want that kind of stuff to step in front of you because that's how you know you're making progress. And if it was easy, anybody could do it. So why would you? Why would you even want to attempt it?
And why do you think you should even skip that?
Right. Why would you? Because if you pull out one of those pieces and then you get higher up and then the thing starts to tilt, like, what's the matter? What did we do wrong? Well, you pulled that pin out or you didn't put it back where it was supposed to be. You didn't check that box. And it was one of those guiding principles that every morning waking up at 04 going to swim, and just like one thing, I mean, tired all the time. But then we would watch that documentary again. And then I plastered I was one of the guys, like, I'd take all the posters and plaster it all over the walls. Like when I was in med school, anatomy and physiology, I had all the skeletons everywhere and labeled everything. So wherever I went, whatever I did, it was in my face. Because if that's all that's there, that's all you can become.
Because it keeps it
right there.
Yeah.
The minute something creeps in there to pull you out of it, and the minute you turn your head and there's something there to remind you what you're supposed to be doing, boom, it's gone. It doesn't even have a chance to make it in there. It just doesn't.
Got to keep things in your crosshairs.
Right.
Because that's where you're going to head, right?
Front sight focus. Imagine the minute you step into something, everything else is designed to get you out of it. Even your own body. Right. That's why it takes about 2 weeks when you're working out, or 2 or 3 weeks to form a habit and to break one. And you ever notice when you start exercising, when you start doing something about that 2 week mark or a little bit over that is when you get the weakest and the slowest and the most tired? Yeah. That's your body's last ditch effort to say, are you sure you're wanting to do this? Because right after that was when somebody walks up and goes, man, you've been working out? You look good. And then boom, then it's set. Yeah, then it's there. The minute somebody else recognizes it. And then you're like, yeah, all right, I am making progress. Because plateaus are there for a reason. They're to give you some rest, to make you appreciate what you just climbed, and to make you look at what you're about to climb. Period. And that whole training pipeline, and everyone around us, I remember said we couldn't do it. And back when we were kids, the programs were set up like, this is the hardest thing possible. You're going to die if you go in here. No one makes it. You especially. Well, that's what I want to go do. It's not everyone gets a trophy. It's real easy. You get your ass in there. But we didn't even go. We didn't even go to on those rides. Yeah. We didn't even go in that haunted house. It's like, it's not that scary. A haunted house has a pass. It's like, it's not that scary. Would you go in it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's multiple ways to look at each scenario. And if you always look at it as like, I'm the one that's going in there to get it on. Well, then everyone else will be like, no. And everyone around us is like that. Yeah. Some of us are set down here to pull us in that direction. Some people down here get sick, some don't. You know what I mean? Everyone's different. That's why our community is so small. Is like, man, it tells you're going to die if you try to go in here. All right, let's do it. And that was the scariest thing for me because I was a little bit, I don't like about my brother. He's the alpha. He's kind of the one that pushed us in those directions. But I always had to go first. That was the crazy part. He's like, I got a great idea.
Was that by design from him?
Yeah, right?
His idea?
Like, I got a great idea. Go check it out. I'm like, all right.
Let me know how it works.
I go in there and get my ass handed to me. He's like, I'll rethink it. I'm like, all right, you do that.
You say he's older, right?
It was 7 minutes.
That's what the older brother does.
Right. Because back in the day, he'd be king. You know what I mean? So he lets me know about it.
So when you guys were 14 and you guys were starting to do the Navy SEAL training, and I mean, did you have anybody that you could go to as far as some influence or guidance? Because at 14, when it came to conflict or that tension, you were the one to kind of back up a little bit. Even with Morgan, testing you and pushing you and putting you out front. There's still that beacon that we need, somebody that has done more than we have to kind of give us that path. Did you have somebody like that?
And we don't talk about that as men very much. I call them pillars. There's like guys that'll set up in your life, and a lot of people are like, man, why do you hang out with that person? But I don't even know. He's just here for a reason. And I did. My father was one of them. Then I had a martial arts instructor. Started training with him, Steve Hunter. And he gave me discipline and taught me about my skill sets in my body. And then there's a man by the name of Billy Shelton, and he still lives out here. And he was a Vietnam veteran, and he trained, he would see him in the high school doing weight training with the football players and the baseball players. And then he would train people to go into the military. So I bebopped over there one day, looking back at it, I can't believe I got it done, but I was scared. He was the guy in our town, the small town, right? You know the town, the guy that everyone's scared of.
Yeah. The crazy one.
Drives a van with no windows. Yeah, that guy. You know what I'm talking about? You see him in the supermarket, you're like, whoa, let's go the other aisle, right? And that's by design. I mean, he's intimidating until he loves you. And then the intimidation turns into like that. It's hard to explain. But I knocked on his door and I was like, I'd like to be a Navy SEAL. I was wondering if you'd train me to do that. And he looked at me all funny. And I was looking up at him. I had a growth spurt. And he's like, yeah, 4:30 tomorrow. And he slammed the door in our face. It was me and a couple of my buddies. So I showed up the next day at 4:30. I remember I came running up there. I was hauling the mail. And he was already out there waiting on us. And he was looking at his watch, and he was pointing at us and at the ground. And as we got closer, man, he was cussing us. I've been a SEAL for over 20 years. I still hadn't been cussed like that. He was coming up with some original stuff, to say the least. And then he stopped us dead in the street, and he drew a line in the dirt in front of us. And he's like, every day you come here, I'm going to draw a line in front of you and ask you to cross it. He's like, being in the Special Forces is a voluntary program. You can quit anytime you want. He's like, you should quit right now. He goes, you cross that line, I'm going to do everything I can to break you. He's like, you're going to bleed here. I ain't your mom. I don't care whether you live or die. He said, when a man goes to war, his brain turns to water and runs out of his ears, and all he has to go on is instinct and the guy to the right and left of him. He's like, you want some of that cross the line, boy. And at 14, you're like, dun, dun, dun. You've been right? You watch superhero movies all the time. Like,
I can do it.
You can't hurt me.
Yeah.
Man. We crossed that line stupidly, and he was like, everybody on your faces, give me 300 push-ups for being late. And that's not a lot of push-ups, but if you got some guys who aren't in shape, you can be paying the man. And I was a guy who wasn't in shape. I mean, he would literally throw me. We started pushing the deck, and we started teeter-totter. Like some of us were going down while the rest of us were going up. And he's like, stop what you're doing. He's like, as a team, you're going to go down together, and you're going to come up together, and you're going to live together and die together. You're not a team. Start over. So we started mashing the deck again, got out of sync. And he's like, you didn't hear what I said? Down together, up together, live together, die together. You're not a team. Start over. And if it wasn't that phrase, just profanity. Then he started hitting us with the hose and roll it and kick. Man, he was disgusted. He used to grade us with percentages. I'm not even going to get into that part. But, he's like, get off my property. He's like, you're a damn disgrace. He's like, go home. And when you get home, walk right up to your daddy and punch him in the face, tell him to start over because he effed up on you. That's what he told me. And my dad was mean, dude. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, man. And as we run out of there. We ran out of there. And he's like, you want to do it again tomorrow? Show up on time. Don't ever be late.
Did your dad know that you guys were going over there?
Yeah, he had to take us. We were too young to drive.
Did your dad think, like, I don't want to drive over this guy?
No, he loved Billy. He was like, man, beat their...
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's like, you guys want some of this? Sure, Billy will hook you up. And that was our first lesson, was being on time. It's like, if you're not 15 minutes early, then why would I waste 1 ounce of my time on you if you can't show enough respect to me? Because that's the first thing. Like, if anybody wonders how I got where I'm at or how you got where you're at, it's because we showed up. You boil it all the way back to your thought of what you want to do, then you announce it out of your mouth verbally, then next step, showing up. And even if you show up and they kick you out of there, show up next day. And then the next day. There's so many stories of people who say, man, I just kept showing up. Or I just happened to be standing there and then someone else didn't show up and they were like, hey, come here, we need you. And then, all right, let me show you what I got. That's all it takes. One step after the other. To climb a mountain, it's one hand over the other. You got to start at the bottom. You try to go all the way to the top first, the fall sucks. And he hammered that with us this time. He's like, all of our realities are perfect when you're by yourself at the house. Looking in the mirror, everything's wonderful around you. He's like, the minute you walk outside and walk into somebody else, as soon as you run into their reality, if you ain't ready for what they're swinging, you could die.
Do you think that's where people get stuck, is they want things to be what's comfortable?
Yeah, they want their reality to coexist and everyone kind of jump in. That's not how it works. It's a measuring problem.
Life, marriage, business.
All that.
I mean, all that.
So imagine if God had a perfect picture of what everything was supposed to be. Everybody thinks perfection is perfection. It's not, because what's perfect to me is not perfect to you. Imperfection is perfection. It's like this wonderful puzzle, and if you look at this picture, there's all different colors, designs, and then when you break that up, every part's different looking, funky looking. And then you spend life going around trying to see which piece you fit with. And some pieces fit together that they're not supposed to be together. right? It's kind of like marrying, if you marry the wrong person, or if you, we all have sins in us and virtues, right? If you marry a woman that likes to party and get crazy like you, probably going to be wild. If you marry your opposite, your kids probably be perfect. So as you go through life, you're trying to find where you fit. That's the adventure. And it always looks funky in the beginning to you, and that's why age is ranked. The longer you go through this, you only got one day down here, just one. I mean, the teams we have, the only easy day was yesterday. And you don't have any idea if tomorrow's coming. You just don't.
Man, that's powerful, Marcus.
That's why you leave a time remnant, right? Because you'll run back into yourself at a different time. And you used to be dressed up differently and look different. And however you treated somebody, it'll come back on you. So you got one day when you get up. Everything you need is probably going to be around you. The further you have to go out of your way, the further you're going out of your day. And the days...
Marcus, you've just got like these nuggets left and right, man.
Well, the day is too heavy.
Yeah.
We all exist in it. You can't carry it. It's supposed to carry you. Like the birds get carried by the wind, fish get carried by the water. Humans get carried by the day. And if you try to lift it and try to come back on it, man, it'll crush you.
Do you think that's where people struggle so much?
Sure, man, because they don't know.
Yeah.
No one's, they try to overthink it. You can overthink most everything and make it hard. As opposed to just staying in the moment and letting it unfold. In the teens, we have this saying, don't run to your death. The gunfight will be there. Trust me. The bullets reach back, right? So you want to run into it? No, man. We're just going to let it unfold, even in fights, and let that thing develop. See what happens. Somebody comes in blazing off the bat, man. They usually wear themselves out. And youth is a tool, but it can also be the wrong tool in certain situations. That's why we say age is rank. Experience is experience.
Naive ambition can...
right? Yeah. And it's not anybody's fault.
Yeah,
it's like, man, if you got one day down here to learn something, well, then you have to learn it a certain way. Even if I tell you not to do it, you're still going to have to go in and get in it. It's like being in school and having buddies that are in the grades above you, and you kind of seeing what they're learning. Man, you're still going to have to go through it. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's so hard to understand. I don't think actually we're even if we learn it, you're still going to have to do it. So it's kind of like, well, why even tell them that?
Why stress about something you're going to face anyway?
Boom. Right?
But if you don't pay attention, you're going to keep recycling.
Yeah, it'll hit you hard.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the beautiful thing about it. It recycles itself.
You'll know what you need to learn because you're having to face the same thing.
They'll keep showing up, man.
So go ahead, Anthony.
So you said you were was it theater or drama in high school?
Yeah, the theater program and drama. One's the fancy word of saying drama, and the other one's...
I just want to recap.
On stage, at first I was a lighting and sound guy.
So it was 4:30.
I wasn't even good enough to be on the stage.
That's the participation trophy. So it's 4:30 a.m. Cross the line, get the shit beat out of you, and then theater and drama club in the afternoon.
Yeah, tennis and the guys. My crew is diverse. I mean, they were buddies with the football player and everybody in between. Like when you see the guys I run around with, be like, why do they hang out with you? Or why do you hang out with them? I was like, man, because they have a strength that I have as a weakness. And when we're together, I don't feel it. I mean, it doesn't matter what we're doing. It's not work. If we're all together, it's a blast. And we're still like that. My wife, she has the fun times with it, and crazy, because we just do. We have a wonderful time together. We make sure we always see each other, talk to each other on the phone. That's important. And even up into college, I went to college at Sam Houston State unit. Yeah. Only people from around here get that. Like, where'd you go? I'm like, I'm a Bearcat. You know what that is? Like, no, no one does, right? But it's up at the unit. So, the reason we say that because death row, for people who aren't familiar, that's where our prisons are. They call them units.
One side of the highway is Sam Houston State. Other side of the highway is the state penitentiary.
Right. Yeah. Death row and all that.
We have
over by the
a
sorority house.
Right between the two, right in the middle.
Boom, right there. And we were steadily training to be in the military. And as I got into college and got older, and I kind of grew and got stronger, then my focus turned solely on becoming that.
Were you were medical pre-med when you were in school?
A business. So my father was a chemical engineer.
Okay.
He was the smartest man I ever met. I loved him to death. He's a bit of an outlaw. He's a tough man. In our families, growing up, you have those uncles you can go joke around with, and there's the ones you don't. Mm-hmm. Right? I kind of had that. Mm-hmm. So my mother is an angel straight from heaven. She's a hippie, so if you put a hippie and outlaw together, this is what you're going to get. And I grew up on a horse ranch, too, quarter horses and thoroughbreds.
Wow.
So it's yeah, and as I shifted over and kind of grew, we just there was nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when something gets a hold of you, my buddies and I talk about this sometimes. Like, I have plenty to do, but I don't really have anything to do. And it's like when you get your calling and it jumps in you, man, you just all else stops, right? You just kind of shift over and push into that, and that's what happened when it was time to go into the teams. Yeah.
So you graduated college, and then did you and Morgan both go to Sam Houston?
We did. He's got the for undergrad. He's since gone to. Went to Harvard for a little while and UT South. You know, he's got his overachieving nexus, right? He's like a neuroscientist. I don't even know what half the words he's got coming out of him, right? But which is great. Yeah. I mean, it truly is, right? I was more of University of Hard Knocks kind of thing. So from 0 to 40, you have an opinion. 40 to 60 is your perspective, and then your wisdom drops in after that, hopefully. And that always shows up from a woman. You can't get it unless you deal with him. And I remember going in, and he came in about a year and some change after me. I was still in the pipeline, the program. I mean, it took me 3.5 years to get from start to till I got to my SEAL team.
So you enlisted in the Navy after you graduated?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
went through basic.
I did. Yeah.
Did you go to the recruiting office? You're like, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, Mojo did. He Morgan, my brother, right?
Yeah.
We call him Mojo. He went first. So our recruiter's name was Bo Walsh. He was a Navy SEAL. This is the best part. So my recruiter was a SEAL. And I remember Morgan comes up. He's like, hey, man, I went down to Conroe to the Navy recruiter. He's like, there's a SEAL in there. And I walked
pinnacle since you were 14.
Boom, right? He's sitting right there, man. And he was in his camis. He had his boots unlaced, and they had him propped up on his desk. He had his sideburns. I mean, like the coolest dude. Just cooler than the flip side of a pillar, right? And I was like, man, I'm going to come down there and meet him. So I drove down there, and I opened up the door, and he was about as big around as that bottle. I was a little, because I was too. I thought, SEALs look like that joker right over there, man. They're all beefed out. But he had a big old trident on his chest. A big old dip of Copenhagen in his lip. And he's kind of like, hey, man, you want to go play some golf? And I was like, sure, let's do it. So we went out, and he kind of just started recruiting and telling us stories about being in the SEAL teams. I mean, hearing it straight from their mouth. And he was just telling everything he would say to me, no matter what it was. He's like, I was stuck out on a boat doing these missions. And I was like, oh, dude.
Just fueling the fire.
Man, they would just gas every time. And I was like, oh, I got to do that. And I kept thinking, because I was in shape, and you know how you can tell when someone's testing you? So I would kind of get at him a little bit, and he's like, all right, youngster, let me bring your ass over here, man. He's like, we're going to work out. We're going to do a complete workout during the day, and then we're going to go swimming. And I mean, he crushed me on he whipped me so bad, I didn't even make it through the program. He was still going with a smile on his face. We got in the pool, and I swam 100 yards underwater. He swam 250, and then came up and shot me the finger underwater.
Wow.
I mean, this guy was an animal. It's all a mindset. That's what you can't understand before you go in. And the biggest thing, it's not the physical, it's the mental thing, what they do to us. And that's when they break us and they have to break us and they bring us back. That's why it's designed that way. We don't say it like that because it'll scare people, but you literally have to go get broken.
You got to break comfort,
Correct.
Right? Is that what it is?
Yeah. They break all that comfort. They just chisel that away to you're nothing. And that's why you have to do it together, and that's why you have to volunteer. You have to want it. You have to want to get. You have to want that so bad that you're willing to break everything else to get to it inside of you. So,
getting into the teams, special forces, and you have to volunteer for it, which not everybody wants to do. Everybody thinks they do, right? But is there a pretty tough process to even get the opportunity to go to BUDS? Or is it, if you want to do it, here, show up?
Okay, that's a great question, the way you worded that, and I hadn't really thought about it till this moment. But it depends on the person, because just going down there and signing up to go into the military is just a process. I mean, just in itself, sitting there and signing all that paperwork, going through MEPS, taking all those tests, then leaving the family, and then going to Great Lakes, right? They call it great mistakes. I mean, people get to there, and then like, I can't take this. I can't be away from my family that long. And then it seemed like every day was another, like I said, they have to break you. In order to do that, they kind of stretch you back out up into the moment to where the minute you break or you're fixing to break, the next step is like, oh, it's like, I got there. And that's what they're wanting. Right? And I was like, hey, if you want this bad enough, so does everybody else. So how do you reward? Well, we got to make it hard. We got to push you. We got to keep pushing you. And then every step of that, when someone would quit or die or like, man, okay, well, I'm still here. I thought I was the weakest among us. I mean, I run fast. I mean, I wasn't the smartest or anything like that, the strongest, nothing. But I just kept showing up. And at the bottom of all my journals and in the back of my head, I just say work harder than everybody else. That's all I got. This is my work ethic. My father gave me that. He's like, I don't care if you ugliest, funky looking thing. I mean, I got kids now, and I'm like, hey, you're beautiful. I love you. My dad's like, man, you're funky looking. I don't even know what's going on with you, man. But he's like, you're going to have a work ethic from hell. You outwork about anybody. And he would throw me into those work crews and, I mean, just move me around and have me hustle and work. He'd be like, you know how you get in shape for digging a hole? Dig a hole. And he would have us out there just digging a hole and filling it back in. Why? Who knows? It worked. I mean, if you think you're in a situation that you're trying to go after something that you want and it's getting hard, then you're in the right situation. It's not hard. It's part of it. It's part of it. Mm-hmm. And always remember that, because the minute you tell yourself that it's something that's coming down on you, it's like, no, you ain't coming down on you. You're coming up into it. Mm-hmm. And you're putting that weight on, that weight of life or whatever it is you're going into. It feels different. That's how you know you've changed. Mm-hmm. And if you're not feeling that, then you're not trying hard enough. Mm-hmm.
Did you have to get like a letter from a senator or get recommendations for the BUDS program, the SEALs, to go, yeah, we'll take him? We'll give him a chance?
I was enlisted. The officers have to do that.
Okay.
They have to get congressional approval, and especially if they go into the academy. Wow. If they're going to the academy, there's not very many of us overall. There's more enlisted than there are officers, so our officer squadron is particularly small. Mm-hmm. And it's a numbers game. Like, most people don't want to go through that. So guys signing up enlisted wise, they're just like, hey, here's the program, sign up for it, and then get in there and try and make it. It's like that.
So the dropout rate's really high.
It's almost 80-something%.
So roughly how many typically, does a class have a maximum number they'll let in?
Yeah, I think that's kind of, so there's 5 classes a year. And and I had around 164 guys in my class. 10 made it. And my brother had 200 and something in his class. I think max is 250 in the beginning, because instructors are SEALs, and the compound and the gear is only set up for a certain, and you can only keep eyes on it. I mean, more people die in our training than they do in combat. That's a little gem we keep from you guys. So if you having that many guys running around in a death situation, it's hard to keep up with them.
Right.
That's why it's so small, and that's why the classes are divided up. And each phase is designed for a certain thing. First phase, just to beat down, gut check. Mental and physical torture to make sure you have what it takes just to go to follow-on training. Second phase is our dive phase. It's actually what separates us from every other special forces, is our ability to what we do underwater. Mm. I mean, I've over 2,000 hours underwater. I mean, I've fallen asleep underwater twice. I mean, my longest dive was 10 hours and 47 minutes. That's pitch black water, can't see your hand, just kicking out. Wow. Yeah, I mean, what they do to us is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then after a dive phase, it's weapons and demolition. And it's basic
blow
stuff.
Shit up.
Yeah, blow shit up, man. That's right. Yep.
And you've touched on this, and the point is to break you, but there's also a point where, and I think we find this in life, whether it's an athlete or in business, is we're looking for these benchmarks to go, as long as I can get here, if I can just get here, then I focus on the next one. Yeah. Right. And so every hard day that you show up the next day, you made it. Yeah. Right. You're one day closer. Yes. But when you go through a program like BUDS, which lasts how long?
It's 7 months if you do it straight through. I broke my femur and my pelvis, so I was there for 11 months. Oh, you don't want to spend extra time there, man, because I was getting, even when I was on crutches and my leg was broke, they had me out in the ocean surf torturing me. I had to hold my crutches up. It's hilarious. I mean, it's funny. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When you went in, you had a growth spurt in college.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I grew another inch and a half when I was 23 in BUDS.
So at your height in BUDS, what
6'5", I was 6'5", 280 pounds when I came out of SEAL teams. I remember I came home from my grandmother's funeral. Like, who are y'all? I was like, okay. I was one of those guys that wasn't married. There was no wife, no kids from 0 to 40. You're trying to figure out the man you're not. And we were married to that life. Wow. I mean, so I was like, hey man, if you give me something, turn me green, I can grow 8 feet and Hulk out. I'm all about that. Well, I just didn't turn green. I grew and got big, but I didn't. Yeah, this is all government work.
Government issue right here.
Government issue. Yeah, Mark 1 motto right here. Yeah. If you're worried about your size, your height, join the military.
What's when people look at like Navy SEALs, looking at the movie G.I. Jane, I think that's probably the most recent movie done of SEAL training to a degree.
In its entirety?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the underwater training where I've seen pictures where, guys, their hands were zip tied, and then were they tied or something to a cinder block in the pool?
Yeah.
And they've got SEALs in there, the instructors, but I mean, what is the point of that exercise? Because
the cinder block is knot tying. Those are two different things.
Okay.
So there's pool comprehensive week, right? You got to swim 50 meters underwater. Then knot tying, you're in the Navy, right? You're a sailor. We tie demolition and all that stuff. So you have this rope. You tie it. It's wrapped around your canteen. I hadn't thought about that in a while, bro. And you have to tie all these 5 different knots. So you have to go down to the 15-foot section. There's a cinder block down with a rope tied in between. You got to swim down there and tie all those knots. But then there's an instructor sitting across from you, evaluating you. And so you'll tie a knot, and you'll have to look up at him, and he'll go like this, and he'll look at it, and he'll kind of mess with it a little bit, because these guys can hold their breath for 5+ minutes. You're in the beginning, you're just micro like, right? My one buddy, I'll never forget, he went down, he tied the knot, and he was like, "Is this good? Is this good?" And the instructor was like, he was like, "No, it's good." And then the rope started floating away. He didn't tie it around the other rope. And then guys die all the time. I mean, they drown. Because in the instructors, you can hear them laughing through their snorkel. And this one instructor, I'll never forget, this guy was tying the knots, and to hear him tell, it's hilarious. Because he's like, "Bro, I was sitting there tying this knot, and all of a sudden I started floating like this, and I could hear that bastard yelling at me through his snorkel, or laughing at me through his snorkel." And then he did the fishing rod and rolled up the middle finger at me as I floated away dead. And they grab him by the shorts and throw him on the pool, and we're all sitting there Indian style facing the other direction. So you can hear these dudes dying behind you. It was one of the most intimidating things we went through. I remember guys were freaking out, and they would pull that guy up and they'd bring him back to life, hit him in the back, give him and then he'd puke up all that water, and the first words out of their mouth was like, "Hey, you want to quit?" And be like, no, instructor. And they'd throw him back in the water right then. He's like, "Get back down there and finish." And he drowned again. Dude, I couldn't believe it. I was intimidated. I was scared to death. And the other one is drown proofing. And this is really good. So that's when they tie our hands and feet together behind our back. I still have the scars from that. And there's a travel portion where you have to travel across the pool, and then there's a floating portion where you got to bob up and down. And
it's making my heart race just like trying to visualize this.
Oh, it's the worst. The funniest thing is, so it's in the deep part of the pool, so you'll have to breathe out to sink down, and then you push off. And when you come out, it's learning how to control your breath. So imagine you never really get out of shape. All right. If you notice, like when you're running everything, it's your breath that goes first. So if you learn how to control your breath in any situation, that's endurance. Right. So you have to modulate your breath to the bottom, to the top. And what happens is the guys get stuck in the middle, and there's nothing to blow out, so you can't sink, and they can't push off the deck to get to the top, and they drown. It's hilarious. I mean, it's the scariest thing you ever seen in your entire life, man. It's hilarious, man. That we do that, but yeah.
But that's also, I mean, by design.
That's first phase. That's only first phase. God. Like in the first couple of weeks.
Wow.
They say it's a fire hose thing. When you get in there, man, like when I say break you, it's important that they don't break our spirit. That's a difference. Break the body, break the mind, don't break the spirit. Because if you break that, then they're you'll see them in the corner, stuck in their thumb kind of thing. And they do want guys in. But breaking everything else, you can fix that. You can fix that.
You just got to push people to the limit.
Yeah, and they know that. I mean, not only are you dealing with SEALs, but the amount of research that goes into everything that they do to us has been around for a long time. I mean, this isn't just something that they're guessing at.
Right.
I mean, when I say that like people die and all that's part of it. That's part of it. Because it is so regimental of how we do these evolutions, because it has to produce a certain thing. And a lot of people think, well, why would you do that? It produces a physical. It doesn't have anything to do with a physical thing. That's a mental test. And if they don't get past it, then they can't understand what it is we do. And that's so important when y'all send us in. You got to think, y'all send us in when you've had enough, when you're tired of whatever it is you're dealing with. Imagine everyone in America looking at one bad guy and getting upset at him. And that's when we come in. That's when y'all pull us off the chains. Other than that, man, we just sitting there like seals and we bark at stuff, looking at shiny things on the ground, have something cold to drink, right?
I'll fast forward a little bit and see how it relates to your youth and the training in SEALs. 2016, you did a speech at the RNC in Cleveland. And it was met with half praise and half criticism. Walk us through that.
Well, I don't worry about all that. And that was the craziest time. But that whole, just to get me there. I don't know if you walked on stage. I had just flown in and landed. I was late getting off. I was at a speech somewhere else, came in. They tried to hand me my speech. I was like, well, I don't read those. You know, somebody else writing my words for me. And then, but I remember walking up there and it looked like we were at a national championship kind of thing. It's amazing what it feels like in those rooms. But anything I said had to be said. I just don't make this stuff up. I mean, you can judge it from any way you want, but unless you've been in my shoes, then why would you? I don't ever judge anybody, ever. I mean, I don't understand what you walk in, what you go through on a day-to-day basis. But I mean, I know what I go through, so if I say it, and I mean, I'm not just saying it to say it, there's something to it. People don't understand. It's like the further you get away from the truth, the harder it is to hear it when someone speaks it.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't say anything unless I've been on both sides of it. My whole life, all I ever wanted was wisdom. You know how hard that is? Because you have to go through the good, the bad, and then you have to go through the emotional roller coaster of it. That's why I kept my mouth shut most of my life. 0 to 40, you just have an opinion. So if you're under 40 years old, that's your opinion. You got something to say to me after that, your perspective, I'll listen. And then your wisdom, if you're older than me, I'll definitely listen to you. It's important that you understand that. Age is rank. I'm just shoveling that stuff out of my mouth just to say it.
That was a big, coming from the teams where it's small groups of friends and you end up on a stage with that many people. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
15,000.
I could have gone extremely wrong. It's funny when I got off sage, they were like, good job. And I didn't think about it as the whole world watching it. I was thinking about the people that were in front of me and what I was there to say.
Talk to the front row.
Yeah.
A big part of that speech was the missing connection that the government had at the time around the hell that soldiers go through when they're on duty, and then to come back to a nearly mirror hell in a different direction. And
then I believe I said that there was a war coming here. Aren't we in it right now? I said that. I made that perfectly clear. And then you met, if you say, people are saying something about it, well, guess what? You're in it right now. So now what?
For the guys,
I just don't say that stuff just to say it.
Yeah.
It's different coming from somebody that actually experienced it.
Yeah, because when a lot of times when I say stuff like that, you think I'm coming down on you. I'm not coming down on you, man. I'm trying to tell you what's up. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not judging you or anything like that. I was just telling you what's coming. Now it's here. So,
and operationally, you need clarity to know exactly, like at least a plan of where you're headed, right? To give you at least a blueprint of what you could be facing. Because you need clear truth.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about having more than one person around and listen to what they have to say. If you're not listening to what they have to say, then you're missing something. Everything and everybody down here is a gift, a treasure, really. Because there's not one person down here who's the same color, not one person down here is the same height. Everyone's fingerprint is unique, and you're as unique as that fingerprint. And as you go through life, man, we all receive it differently. I don't care if you're reading the same words. You apply it differently.
That's true.
That's a fact.
Everybody can read the same passage. They're all going to get something different from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes my wife and I would sit back when we first got married, we'd be in a disagreement, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I would get mad at myself or getting mad at her, at me. It was like a repetitive cycle. Come to find out, she was just saying the same thing I was saying, but just a different way. You're just trying to, we kind of all want the same thing, just everyone trying to say it a different way. And if you step back long enough and just don't get upset, and you kind of listen to what people are saying, and you realize, like, okay, there's a difference between wants and needs. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, maybe we need this. I don't care what you want. You can go earn that. Need is completely different, like the safety and all that stuff like that. And there's people down here who provide it. Don't get in the way when we do that, and definitely don't question it. Otherwise, get on the line. Lead, follower, get the hell out of the way.
We're reading this book right now, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. We're on habit 5, and it's interesting because it talks about the 5 different types of listening. And the most effective is empathetic listening. Like you're listening because you're genuinely curious, you're open to learn, which is typically the hardest for people because they're listening, but they're wanting a certain response.
Sure.
Then they get upset when they don't get it, right? But in your case, from being an operator as a SEAL, when orders come down, you've got to listen to learn what exactly you have to do, right? Because then everybody has to get on board with the same mission to be able to get an outcome together, right?
Well, there's a huge difference between sitting and listening and sitting and waiting to talk. And then you tell me what you want done, and then you're going to tell me how to do it? Well, then you do it. You just tell me what you want done, we're trained. It's like telling your heart surgeon how to work on you. I guess you could do that, but otherwise you it's trust. I mean, that's why we put so much hard work into this. That's why it was so hard to get that job, man. And so you guys would, like when it is time for us, you don't have to worry about it. We'll go do our deal. I'm not saying not keep an eye on us and keep the reins on us when we get back. That's part of it too. That's that cycle. There's no way I could exist if every one of y'all weren't as extreme as I am in your own capacity. You get rid of us. We wouldn't even be allowed to exist. That's a beautiful thing about our generation. Generation X, man, we're completely different. We're hybrids. Like the baby boomers, man, they hate each other. Their war messed them up. Vietnam, hippies and the Patriot, they hate each other. You can see it going on right now. And then the generation that hated war so much put their kids in a 20-year one.
Wow.
And now we're coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, sent us away for 20 years. That's what war is. You can't figure out what to say. Old men lying, young men dying. I was perfectly honest about that when I was on stage, and I didn't say it like that, but that's what it is. You think, I told you I don't like to fight, but I will if I have to. The only time you ever actually have to stand up and be recognized as an American is when we say the pledge. Otherwise, just go about your business and enjoy this place. I mean, there's some of us that are designed to go do things, and some of us are designed to do others. I mean, I was going to say, it's don't ever judge anybody.
What drives your passion now?
A woman sitting in the corner right over there. She's everything to me. Like I said, we met on a blind date. Yeah, I asked her to marry me that night. I moved in with her the next day. That was 0 to 40, no wife, no kids. Right? I met her right a little bit before 40, so I didn't make it all the way. But when you know, you know. I tell the young guys, like, all right, when you meet a woman for the first time, she's going to drag 1 or 2 dudes out of you. That one guy wants to go out, show off, get some scars, and do reckless stuff, or the one who wants to go in the house, watch a Notebook, and not let anybody see him. If both them guys show up at the same time, when she's just, you don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I didn't know what to do with my hands, right? Had a Ricky Bobby moment.
Full on Ricky Bobby.
Right? I went in there to piss excellence. Come to find out I didn't know what to do with my hands, right? So when that happened, there was a shift. I could feel it. I knew exactly what it was, and I didn't. And then I knew it was time to transition. I knew it was time to go and on that path. And then she sets the path, the rules. Man, I'm for protection and enforcement. Whatever she wants and needs, we go together. We're a perfect team. And in the beginning, you hear the wife term, and it was something other than a perfect teammate. Like I married my opposite. That's why our kids are great. And the minute I think that I can't, like if I'm getting frustrated or something like that, I just realize that she sees things from a different lens through it, and it's my job. She's my mate, so I got to figure out how to make that work. That's the spice of life. The minute you come down on it, I'm like, well, if everything was everything, it'd be boring, especially for guys like us. We want it to be different. Only point is, man, you don't need anger in that or meanness. I mean, you turn on the TV, everybody today, man, on TV, like my grandmother used to call it being ugly to each other. Man, y'all just being ugly.
Left and right.
You're just talking all that. You ain't got nothing nice to say. In a perfect world, social media should probably be deleted at the end of every day or at the end of every week. Because you can look up some stuff online on social media that happened a couple years ago and get upset about it. And that person could be dead for all we know. Or what they were saying was just at a spur of the moment. And you can't pick up sarcasm.
Yeah.
And most people are sarcastic. Right, they like to joke around, and they'll say something that was supposed to be sarcastic, and people just blow it up, man. You're like, and I think that we're just learning. All that stuff's new online. Like I said, we're hybrids, so we're a little bit of the old and a little bit of the new. And then you have the millennials; they're all tech. And I think it's just those developing those skill sets and then reimagining, you know, what it's like with all that, and use it as a tool for good, as opposed to just, yeah, man, you can beat somebody down with it all you want, but I mean, why? Well, why would you knowingly hurt somebody?
Yeah. It's strange. I mean, people have gone back as far as 5-6 years and pulled out a tweet and then ruined somebody's career, whether comedian or politician or, you know, Joe Blow,
Sure.
entrepreneur, business owner, you know, for something that they said that they didn't even pull out the context of it. Just one statement, 140 words or less, and then they just.
Yeah. I know. And some of those topics, it's a snapshot. You can't discuss it in that amount of time. And what was it, Kavanaugh, when they were saying, in high school, did you drink a beer? And I was like, oh, man. I was like, yeah, didn't everybody? You didn't? You were the kids we didn't hang out with. You know what I mean? I was like, man, you're supposed to change. I mean, you're supposed to learn your lessons and grow from that.
Yeah.
To be hammering people for something that you don't want to start that rabbit hole. I wouldn't think. I mean, because we all made mistakes back in the day.
Thank God there wasn't social media when we were kids.
Right? And we were on phones.
Oh, man.
Well, that's our favorite
Everything
joke.
recorded.
Ain't no phone back when we were kids.
We got that lucky generation. Yeah.
Right? That hybrid. We got stuck in that no zone where it was like, hey, we just got.
You know what not to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the same arena, so Morgan's going for Congress.
Yeah.
Running against Kevin Brady.
No, Kevin stepped down. That's
Kevin
why.
stepped down.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's running. He's gonna.
Great
What-
guy. I mean, he helped me.
He was in Congress for
20
years, 25 years,
long time.
31 years.
There we go.
It's a long time. What are some things that you've had conversations with Morgan on that you want him to focus on, or you think would behoove him to focus on?
The minute I turned on my TV in the morning, I saw people throwing kids over that wall like sacks of trash, and then women getting raped.
Yeah.
I was like, man, what are you even talking about? What the hell's the matter with you? What the hell's the matter with you? How does that even happen? Like sacks of trash. A child.
Yeah.
We can't be having that.
Yeah.
You can run anything. I mean, you can run anything else you want through there. Fine. It's a supply and demand. They wouldn't be bringing all that stuff over here if somebody over here wouldn't want it. I mean, but you'd be throwing kids over that wall like trash and raping women. And anybody in any position of power who's not doing something about that, you're wrong. You're not supposed to have political parties. Said that. The founders said that. Because parties play out. House parties play out. You don't even want to go to them. And when people get mean, nasty, there ain't nothing getting done. As opposed to, man, we're supposed to work together. It's one team, one fight. You remember how powerful we could be and how much we could get done if everybody just kind of give to the middle, right? Figure it out. And that's my brother's job. He's got to figure all that stuff out. But when I saw that, I mean, I've been to hell and hung out there for a while. And they weren't throwing kids in there. That just got me the wrong. I mean, I just didn't. I don't want to tolerate that.
Yeah, I saw that, man. You just there was a huge trigger.
That.
Yeah,
women and kids. I've never even raised my voice at a woman. No, I kept track. There's got to be one person down here who doesn't do that. I'm not saying this. I mean, you do it to each his own, right? But I never have.
Yeah.
And our kids are our future. You mistreat them, beat them, tell them lies, make them hate, and you'll reap what you sow. Plant that seed early when they grow up and informed, man, stand by. That's why I focus solely on, a lot on kids, man, teaching them discipline, respect for our women. You can make them into anything you want, but right now it's like living in a house with divorced parents. Like some of them get in there and they give you all the money you want, shut you up. And then the other one's like, get to work, and this, you know what I'm talking about?
Man,
it's just what it feels like to me.
A pretty good analogy.
And I'm not saying either one of those are bad, because I love them. One side of you love them, right? I want them to do well. I don't talk bad about them. I mean, it's our president. Don't say anything, Mr. President. Don't call him a name. I mean, the media just tear. I don't like that.
You may not like the person, but you have to respect the office.
That's our office,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the White House as mom and dad, Congress, Senate, aunts and uncles. We're all the cousins, nieces, and nephews out here running around. Don't talk smack about your uncle, man. Don't wash your laundry. I mean, I just don't. You ain't got something nice to say in a constructive way, man. Keep your mouth shut.
Unless you have a solution.
So exactly, that's my point, man. Say something, and if it is, then you can work together. Like people getting up and walking out just because somebody says something. I mean, there's 50 different states of people down here. 50 different states of minds. You know what I'm talking about? We're the United States. That's why it's so important. I mean, I love this country so much and the people in it. When I got pulled off the line of SEAL teams after I got hurt with the books and the movies, and I had to travel around 300 days a year, city to city, state to state, meeting everybody, and armed up with this, it's truly the best thing ever happened to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got to see how special each individual person is to this country, even if you don't know what they do. I mean, just people do things. I hear you have jobs that you don't even know exist.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to get through it like we are. Mm-hmm. And to discount any one of them, I don't understand that now. I mean, I couldn't see it before because 53% of all people, I think on the globe, don't leave the town they grew up in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that. Mm-hmm. There's so much out there and it's so different, even just 2 towns over.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're born into poverty and you think life's terrible, move. Because somebody on the other side will be happy to see you.
It's that fear that paralyzes, fear of change.
Yeah.
But is it the change or is it that part of, and I don't know where we get this, Marcus, is when we know there's something we need to do different.
Yeah.
But there's this barrier of fear, the unknown. Is it, am I capable? Can I do this? Or is it optics of what people think? Like there's so many spokes in that, but the moment you take a step is like that, there's something back here you want to do, right? But the moment you take the first step, just the first one, all of a sudden you feel you're making progress.
Sure.
But it's that first step, for you and so many of the things that you've done, even as the timid kid that ended up becoming a Navy SEAL, that first step, right? What was that push, that first step for you to get you in that direction? Because that's probably the one that's the catalyst.
Yeah, it is. I was blessed to have a good parent. It's kind of like, imagine those birds when they try to push, mom trying to push them out of the nest. You can fly. No, what? No, I can't. Right? The only way you know until you get booted out of the nest. And fear and being afraid are 2 different things. Fear is the fuel for your willpower. It's like it's letting you know that there's something to catch your attention. You're supposed to probably pay attention to it. Being afraid will leave you a blobbering mess, laying on the ground, can't do nothing. I've been there one time. But fear, man, it kind of amps you up. And then I'll talk to people who've been training for a while, and the one thing that gave them the fear, like, man, I still have it. I'm like, well, that's not what that is, man. That's anxiousness. Those 2 things run off the same gland. It's like, man, believe in yourself. But believe in yourself that you're supposed to take a step and go in that direction. And especially if you're growing up, know that you were here for a reason. And if that reason's calling to you, go do it. Mm-hmm. And then eventually what happens is God will push people around to start pushing in that direction. Mm. You know what I mean? That's what we're for too. It's kind of like, hey, I need you to go do your deal so I can do mine. You stay in your lane, I'll stay in mine, and we'll do this together, not apart. I don't want to leave anybody behind because we're gonna need them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like we're talking about pulling that pin out. That is like that hinge pin. Yeah, it's that person that you forget about. You don't pay attention to. They're the ones that were supposed to be there. Mm-hmm. And when you we were talking about this the other day. It was a cup of water on someone's like it was half empty. I was like, people who say that glass is half empty have never been thirsty. I've been so freaking thirsty in my life, I was drinking my own blood and urine. It's just the glass was bigger than what that water was. Most people find an inkling of anything to get out of an uncomfortable situation. I'll find to stay in it. You can become, I don't want to say proficient in chaos, but I've been trained in it enough to when I'm in hell as when I activate. It's not a thing for me.
Have you heard of a guy named Andy Frisella?
Oh.
He's got this program called 75 Hard. Does that ring a bell?
No, sir.
It's this program. He owns a supplement company, and he part of his narrative is, people just get so lazy and they really short step themselves in so much in life because they want to embrace comfort, and they need to shackle that or get rid of the shackles of just the laziness. And people say they want to be $1 million, CEO. They want all this stuff in life, but they're not willing to work for it. So the 75 Hard program is about taking these 5-6 simple steps of get up and you work 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes. You drink a gallon of water, stick to a nutrition plan, and it's an indoor and outdoor workout, but you stick to it. And if you fail one of those things every single day, you got to start over. Go back to day 1. And it's to like kind of almost purge yourself to show you what you're capable of mentally. Because like you said about in BUDS, the biggest, brawliest guy that you would think would be the one that makes it. It's not physical. It's the mental part.
Those ones that get it gone. The day 1 when I showed up, there was a guy, he was yoked out. I was like, oh, there's what a SEAL looks like. He was gone in like 30 minutes. He was crying. And I heard one of the preachers talking about this the other day. He goes, He's like, I was praying for this. It's like, Lord, please, I want to do this. I'd like to be this. If you could just help me with that. And then the next day, they start going and they get in these situations and they're like, Lord, please help me get out of this situation. It's uncomfortable. I'm like, well, no. Yesterday you said you wanted to do this. This is what makes that happen. So you praying to get in it and praying to get out of it, that's like a throwing in and drive in reverse. There are no bad times. So the minute you ask for something and pray for it and you start going out and it starts running in front of you, whatever it is, keep going. You know what I'm talking about? And if you want to work out and get in shape, you'll work out and get in shape. Yeah. And people will come around you. They're like, hey, should we go do this? And it's the smallest thing. I mean, start small. Don't go in there that first day. I remember after all my surgeries, I'll be laying there just in the fetal position. And I couldn't even stand. I mean, my wife had to carry me. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to do one push-up. I'm doing it off the wall. I couldn't even lift myself up. I could barely even push off the wall. And I just sit there and do that until I could. And then I would slowly push myself back down. Because when we lift weights, the minute you throw any more weight on your body than you have, you're getting stronger.
Yeah.
This thing is the most, it's undescribable what this thing's capable of.
It is.
Can't even imagine.
But our bodies can go so much further if we just push it, right?
So this is your vessel.
Yeah.
Imagine getting dropped into a race car and not knowing how to drive it. There's all these buttons and everything. It's like, man, what does that do? You know what I'm talking about? And as we go through life, you learn how to drive it. And it gets, and the harder you drive your car, and you say them old muscle cars, they creak, and they not after you get them warmed up, they don't. Mm-hmm. And it's not that they're getting out of shape, man. They're getting so tight. That's why that's like with muscles, man. The harder you push this thing, the tighter it gets. That's why we creak in the morning. And once you get going, stand by.
Creaks a little bit more the older we get.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
But that's how you know it's got some experience on it. Do not show back up with what you got issued. I've always heard that. Don't go back up to heaven with what you got issued. You better have some scars on that thing. Otherwise, you didn't try hard enough. This is supposed to be fun down here. There ain't no reason why we can't have a good time. Wow. I mean, life is its own thing. Yeah. You ever notice that? Because when things die, it keeps going. It's its own cycle. And every morning when we try to merge into it, depending on where you come in at, you get run over. Or you merge in kind of smooth and you keep going. It's like that. It's the perfect ride. It is, man, and everybody in it, they're kind of doing their own things and going on their own adventures and whatnot. And it's the beginning and the end. Think about it like this: the minute you check on board down here, the minute you're born, you're dying.
Yeah.
You actually come down here to learn how to live while you're dying. Imagine if you were immortal. How would you appreciate that? You'd have to bleed. Come down here and bleed. Make you appreciate it. And it's those little things, like I said, you can overlook so much. But in reality, man, the perfect part of being down here is being alive, to understand that. To do anything you want. It's all down here. We can do anything we want. We can go anywhere we want. The only thing that gets in our way is us.
So I have a funny story to tell you, Marcus.
Let me hear it.
Well, it's not funny.
You can't.
Well, actually, I
can't do it like that, man.
Okay, my bad. When I saw this movie,
I'll tell you this funny joke and make me cry.
I saw this movie in the movie theater, and I walked out, and I was just in awe. Just the story, right? And I sat in my car. I was just speechless, and I said, "I'm going to meet that man one day." 8 years later, that's the power of life. When you say you're going to do something, like it's just so resolute and concrete, like I'm going to do that. I'm going to make this happen. This is going to work. This is what I'm going to do. There's going to be a lot of these things. Who knows how it's going to happen, but it is going to happen. Right. And when we met in December, shook your hand and looked you in the eye, and it was an impactful moment. And for today to happen was one of those reminders of it. I kind of did a high five to life, because that is a reminder of whatever it is that you really set your mind to do and you believe it's going to happen enough, that you believe in yourself enough, it will happen.
Sure.
Right?
I can just say it out loud.
Yeah.
Everything it formulates into a thought. The minute you spoke it out and it comes out, and if you say it, I think when we met, I was like, man, our paths will cross again. They always do. That's the beautiful thing about it. I used to get in there, I was like, man, I want to take all the time. Like, no, we had to go do something else first before we came back around to here.
Yeah.
And now we're here together, and we'll be together from here on out.
Yeah.
Once I make friends, man, you stuck with me.
I'm
loyal to a fault, man. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I truly believe in that. people always come at me, man, what a coincidence. I'm like, how many of them coincidences do you need before you realize like this is just how it happens, right?
Yeah.
It's how it's designed.
We pride ourselves on being self-proclaimed book nerds around here. So we're always reading, group reading. Yeah, no one's going to teach us unless we teach ourselves. One of the things that this group got me a couple months ago as a gift was a book by Napoleon Hill called The Laws of Success. It was written in 1925. Chapter 1, page 1 is called Definite Purpose. And the thought process of it is that if you have a definite purpose in your mind of what you want to do, achieve, meet, be, and that's your thought process, then the world will change in order for you to achieve it.
That's cool, right? It's like you project your reality outward, and the more you start doing that and start pushing it, it literally creates a bubble around you. It's so wide that in order to get out of it, you have to travel so far to run into something so obscure for you to even know, for it to impact you in a negative way. Imagine slinging so much goodness out of you that you get to the point to when anything negative comes at you, man, you beat it back so hard with that positive thing, it doesn't have a chance to exist. Not only that, it won't even come near you because everything around you has become positive. I read The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Oh, yeah.
And the Book of Five Rings by Musashi, Miyamoto Musashi. He's the most prolific swordsman ever, never knew defeat. It's really good. It's kind of the same lines. And you know yourself and know your enemy 1,000 battles, you'll never know defeat. And it's Sun Tzu. Musashi goes into the scrolls and he talks about, make sure your martial arts face is your civilian face, they merge, right? And then you when you walk in, you start to see things differently. You can see it before it comes in, how someone's carrying themselves. I mean, I was trained in the SEAL teams I'm Reconnaissance. My job was to study people and how they move, how they act, how they walk, what they wear, what their tattoos are, their ears are cauliflower, that their hands are scarred up on the inside or on the out, right? How they sit, what they laugh at, what they don't, right? And kind of what they say. I could say a few things to get something out of you, and then I know more just by asking those questions.
Yeah.
And then what we do for a living, man, is you just go through it, you realize that, and it becomes a skill set.
Yeah.
The best one.
Second nature.
It is. I mean, people want the special powers of slinging laser beams and whatnot like that, man. But you're armed up with the word, right? And when you kind of walk around and I don't care. I mean, if someone's in a bad, up opposed besides death, and I know her well. She's real close to me, but man, you're having a bad day. I can figure out a way, just like a Rubik's Cube, man, to get in there to make you happy. It's like that point A to point B is that straight line, but there's those other 359 different directions to come in and help somebody. And a lot of times it's just a positive. Even if they come back at you with just, and that happens to me all the time. Try to say something nice to somebody and they're just like, in passing, they don't know who I am. And, but they'll remember that somebody paid them something nice. And I hear that all the time. Like, man, what's the most impactful moment you ever had? Man, I was just doing this one thing, walked up and did this. I'll never forget it. And you're like, okay, you hear that enough times, you realize it's those little moments that really matter, not the big ones.
Yeah.
Those little ones produce those monumental moments, and if you put enough work in and been like that the entire time, that's the reward.
Was that kind of your mission with the book? Because you wrote this book a couple of years.
Well, I don't have anything to do with this. Yeah, that's a great story. Oh, yeah. So the book's the debrief because most of the stories, I've lived them. All the stuff I write about is straight from the heart. I was in combat when that thing came out. My name wasn't even in it. Isn't that funny? Yeah, it was debrief.
No kidding, Marcus.
Yeah, I was still in the teams. I remember the lawyers. I was in Iraq, Ramadi, the worst place I've ever been. And they were like, please don't die. I was like, I try not to. But I got hurt again.
Sarcasm.
Yeah, sarcasm. I got hurt again, and then they pulled me offline and were like, hey, you're going to travel around, do the book thing. You're going to talk about it, the boys. I'm like, roger that. I will. And then that was my assignment. It's happened in military. Usually the Medal of Honor guys do that. They pull the Medal of Honor guys off, and like when they would go around and talk about to fire up our people. I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I remember the admiral telling me, he's like, you're doing more now for the SEAL teams than you ever did when you were in. I was like, what? I was like, do I need to work out more? I was like, what have you heard? I was like, I know I got my ass kicked over there, but I was like, roger that, sir. I knew what he was saying. He's a great man. And when the movie came calling, you got to understand, I've been protected on high ground my entire life. And there's a council that watches out for me, and I get assigned to stuff. I check in with them, and they were like, hey, the Hollywood wants to do this. And I was like, okay. So I would sit at a table and they would bring every director in, I got to meet all of them. And when it was time to film the movie, I got stationed to live in Hollywood with Pete Berg, the director. It was awesome. I mean, I couldn't believe it. All I did was throw the uniform on and serve, and y'all let me have this life. I don't have the vocabulary to thank you for what you've granted me. I mean, I was in hell, and y'all came and got me out of there. I signed up to be an expendable asset, to die if necessary. That was the sexiest line I ever heard when they delivered that to us. And they left me in that hole for a few days. And I was like, all right, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Foreign man, in a hole. Think about that. On Earth, if you try to find me, they start me in a hole. I was like, how could you do that? How could you possibly know where I was at? Everybody else is dead. And everyone there trying to kill me. And y'all came and got me. I couldn't believe it. I still can't. I'm 19 promises. That's why I carry myself the way I do. The time you run into me, you're going to run into the best. I owe y'all that. On top of that, then but looking back at it, was tough. I mean, it was hard on me. It was. I didn't know really what I was doing, but I adapted and overcame, right? That's what I'm supposed to. And then living up in Hollywood with the director, I was like, this is unbelievable. I was like, I'm sure I died in combat. Like, I know I did, right? I'm dead. This is heaven.
Yeah.
And then I met my wife. All I ever wanted growing up when I got done was I wanted a spot of land, a white lab, and a John Deere tractor. I got the land, the white lab, and she came with a John Deere tractor. When we got married, I didn't even know it was her.
Turnkey,
it's
right
her
there.
Tractor right there. I was like, yeah, I died. All right, that's cool. I got over it. But
so you had all these directors wanting to do this book.
Yeah, it was great.
Movie.
And with when they were doing the book, just to publish the book, I got to go to all the publishing houses in New York. I was in my sailor uniform walking around New York City, trying to get this book. I had the best time up there. I'd never been there. I was kind of walking around and soaking this all in of what keeps getting thrown at me. I didn't even have enough time to enjoy each one of them because something else would kind of come at me. And I don't have any regrets. When you look back, don't have any of those. So that's not the right word to use, but I wish I had more time in that moment, because you can never go back. And don't even try to go back and relive a moment because you screw it up. Like I hear people talk about, like, I wish you could go back. No, you don't. If it was that good, leave it alone. Just go make another one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Because then that's all you remember is the one you messed up. And I've learned so many. I think a lot of the lessons that I learned was because I was granted to travel around and meet all of y'all. Because each one of you teach me something. Don't think that you don't. I mean, I learned something the minute I walked in here, just watching y'all. That's why I kept my mouth shut, listening to what you had to say, and learning. And that once you can appreciate that part of it, like what y'all do is amazing to me. What you built, that's what I really appreciate, is the fact that you do that. Not it doesn't have to be anything else other than how hard you work. And when you see that over and over again, I mean, from all walks of life, different types, color, man, many people walk up to you and you don't even have any idea who you're talking to. Yeah. That's the blessing.
Yeah.
Like people just kind of overlook somebody or do something. I'm like, man, you don't have any idea who that was. Yeah. And that, once I saw, it didn't really happen to me, but I saw it happen to somebody else. I was like, well, I'll try not to make that mistake. I go out of my way to talk to somebody. Matter of fact, the minute you look a little bit different than me is when you caught my attention. That's when I'm coming after you. If you kind of look like me, I understand what you're made of, then, that's one thing. But, yeah.
That must have been some big pressure for Peter Berg.
Oh, I told him, he was doing it under the auspice that he would die if he got it wrong.
What?
Yeah, we told him we'd kill him. I made that perfectly clear. I was like, hey, look, man, you got all these buddies of mine died in combat. Their families are looking to make sure this is done right. I was like, you screw this up, man, well, I'll kill you. Everyone started crying. They were like, but he got it right. He's like, how do you know if this movie's a success? And I was like, if the parents signed off on it and if I see it on TNT during Memorial Day. Yeah. And that's where it's at. So, we brought, when Pete came in there, we took him to Iraq. He literally, our community opened up for him only. And he got brought in. And by the time we were done with him and the actors, man, they can move and shoot. They're tough now. Really? Yeah, we took him to Iraq. We beat the mess out of Pete. One of the guys showed up, a few of them actually showed up to his house in the middle of the night, pulled him out of bed, threw him in the pool, it was wintertime, and then took everything out of his bar and left. Man. right? Oh, and then sprayed him
Your
with
name
bear
is still
mace.
fashioned right there.
Hit him with bear mace on the way out. And I don't know if you've ever seen that stuff, but if it's gnarly enough to get rid of a bear, isn't that funny? Oh man, we've had the best time. And then all the actors just, my trip to Hollywood and to New York for the literary, I mean, everybody was so wonderful and gracious. Even when they talk smack, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it. That's a bravado thing. God, we always do that. That's the way we're wired. And I understood that because I was in the teams. And my teammates in the community, they're the ones that really give me my power. I was like, you don't have to worry about me. You need to worry about who loves me, because I do everything for them. I was in the loss column. And we took down Bin Laden, and we've done all these great things, man, but I got my ass kicked. I was the medic. None of my guys made it back. I barely did. And I always remember that. That's why I carry myself the way I do.
There's a moment that was not in the movie, Marcus, and I saw you tell this because somebody had asked you, was there anything that was not in the film for whatever reason? But it was a moment that I think I've used the term mailboxes, right? I used to do triathlons and do an Ironman, and that finish line is way too far away. Anthony and I, we're all athletes, and there's a goal we have, and it's so far away you can't look at it. If that's all you focus on, you'll quit. Right? You need that mailbox, something you can see, that you can feel you get a little bit closer. And you shared the story where, because you were paralyzed, the only way that you could give yourself a short goal was to take a rock, and I think you drew a line.
Yeah, drew a line, yeah. And
you drug yourself. And it was that principle that just a goal, right?
Well, exactly. Mailbox is a good one. And if you want to be a Navy SEAL, or if you want to be the president, or what if I told you all you had to do was one push-up? Like, wake up in the morning, do one push-up. That's it. You could do that. Everybody's like, you got to run 50 miles, you got to swim on it. No, that's later. That's like a build-up. Man, we ain't worried about all that. Matter of fact, I wish you wouldn't put that out. Let's do one push-up, and then in the morning, next morning we'll do two. If you can't do two, we'll do two the next day. Until you learn, it's a resilience thing.
Yeah.
And you build on things. And that's the easiest way to get discouraged, is to think like, oh, I'm not getting to where I want. But don't think like that. No one ever gets there at the same time.
Right.
That's usually why there's only one winner in a race. How many photo finishes you got? Somebody's still going to get there first. So if you think like that, I'm the anchor man. I was the slowest man to come out of BUDS, man. I can't even run out. Take me all day to run out of sight. You know what I mean? But my brother is a gazelle. It's the craziest thing. I can swim like a fish, but whatever. Every one of us have a cross we got to bear down here. You're going to have to take some pain. Everybody else has to. At what point in time did anybody tell you that you were unique to where you didn't have to? Because otherwise somebody else is going to have to shoulder it for you.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me? You're telling me you don't want to go through it? So, okay, pick who you want to go through that pain for you, and we'll get them over here. Well, I don't,
defer responsibility.
That's what I thought. Yeah, if you want it, then let's do this. It ain't pain, man. It's paradise. It's that pleasure. Like I said, you're stepping into the weight. It ain't stepping down on you. Otherwise, it'd have been there in the beginning. You'd been wearing it from birth.
There's a distinct SEALs, 82nd Airborne. There's a distinct brotherhood that is so concrete, resolute. And, for a lot of guys that have not been through that, we have tastes of it with our lifelong friends and things that we've gone through together, whether it be in our personal lives, just showing up, being there, whether it's just an arm or need me to help you move, one of the worst things to have to volunteer to do. But how could a group, or even like in a business in a business environment, capture that or create that sense of brotherhood, camaraderie for each other? Because for so many people, it's all about me, right? I'm gonna do what makes me happy. I'm gonna live my best life. But you create these silos where people are not working together. Everybody's end up going against each other. Yeah. Right. How do you think people could incorporate some of those things in a group, whether it's a group of friends that have kind of lost each other along the way, or even just in a culture environment, in a business, that people could really think to look at? How do you build that amongst a group of people?
That's a great question. And you do it, the way we did it, one day at a time, one evolution at a time, because people are going to come and go. So as you build that up, it creates that team in itself. It's like a gift of that. a gift of getting together and trying to do something with each other. Otherwise, you can play golf, but even golfers have caddies, right? I mean, it's like you kind of, in those hard times, it's like tempering steel. How do you do that? You get it really hot, really cold, and you beat the mess out of it. So everything you guys have gone through to build this up, I mean, think of the obstacles that you've run through together. And think about how when you're together, you can go over it, around it, or through it, but we're coming. Unstoppable force. Unstoppable force. Show me in a move object, man, I'll show you how we can go right through it. And when those things will present themselves. Like I said, you pick out what you want to do, you start putting your team together, like people who want, that they want to be there, and then you'll know if they don't. And when they get discouraged, that's why you're there. It's like, it's all right, he's taking some heavies. We'll cavitate around him and bring him back up. It's supposed to be that way. That's how you know you're making the progress, like you're in it. And never forget that. And the complacency, I guess the best way I heard it explained was like job's like a roller coaster, right? And then we're all on the same track. We're just in different cars, because there's people who like to sit in the front and they like that climb and then and then the drop, right? And then they hate that drop part. And then there's people in the back like to get jerked around all the time. They don't like to see anything. They just like to get jerked around all the time. And then there's people in the middle. If you remove one of those carts, then the whole thing will fall apart. And there's people like different things. That's the perfection and imperfection, right? So you kind of want to set your team up that way. Because if you're exactly alike, then it's just, I think you run into that bottleneck. And then you hear people talk about like, oh, we're in the down times, like down part of the roller coaster. That's kind of fun. Are you down shifting? But wait, where'd you start? Because if you started all the way down there, then it shouldn't be a problem, because you've already been down there. And it's always good to go down and refresh. The minute we get back from a deployment, they separate us. We get a little break and they pull us back together, and we start over training on the first thing we ever learned. And we go over it again and again and again. And then we get together, we deploy, we come back, separate us, get a break, come back, start over. The basics. Master the basics. I mean, you can do all them fancy kicks and high-flying stuff, or you can be that one basic guy. Never gets tired.
Stick to the basics.
Yeah, man, because as soon as things get heavy and you start getting worn out, man, all that cool stuff falls apart. But if you're locked in on the basics, and that's the difference between us and every other special forces, is the way they train us. They literally beat us to death and wear us out for months and years before they even think about putting a weapon in our hand. And then when they put a weapon in our hand, it's empty. So you understand when you're completely worn out and you got no muscle left, it's all muscle memory. And then I understand what that true weight feels like. Wow. And then they'll put one bullet in there. I'll be okay, I understand what that weight feels like. And then I'll learn how to use it, and then 2, and 3. And then I'll learn how to discharge that and then hold it. And I mean, with every single thing we do. That's why it takes so long to make one of us. That's why when we lose one, it's a big deal. And it's like that. I mean, you could break it down as lowest common denominator as you want. Somebody's doing something awesome, they're kicking butt, look at what they're doing, then break it down, because they had to have, there's always pieces of that. Yeah. And evaluate it. That's how you'll know how to fix something. Like, step back, don't look at the big picture. Like, man, let's look at the basic part of this. What's going wrong?
So that's an interesting topic. You say that because for a lot of people, whether they're just too sensitive, they don't take constructive criticism as a way that's helping them. They look at it as it's telling them they're incapable. And in the teams and training, without somebody telling you, you're kind of misstepping here. If you do it like this, is going to help you. If you're too sensitive, you're like, oh, you're telling me I'm horrible. It's going to completely set you to fall apart, right? But it's being able to look at that criticism in the right way to be open to it, because that's going to help you succeed, right?
Correct. And that's one thing that we switched. Like in our community, that's all you hear from guys. Man, you screwed that up. Man, why are we doing this? Why don't you move like this? Try literally like that. That's why we have to say you have thick skin in the community, because everything, someone's always, especially if they're higher rank or older, like, man, you're a soup knot. What the hell's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Even if you did awesome, you could do great. And they'd be like, you think you did great? You'd be like, I think I did pretty good. And so you're a pretty cool guy now? And you're like, well, that's not what I'm saying. It's like, well, that's what I thought you said. Get a haircut, check the watch bill, go get wet. You know what I mean? It's just like always something. And our community is like, if we're not messing with you, that's a problem. You need to worry. That means we don't like you. If no one's talking to you or critiquing you, man, you ain't going to be around very long. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you the wrong person for this job. We need somebody in here who can handle this.
There's some healthy hazing around here.
That's what that camaraderie we're going, man, it's back and forth. Because look, that's mental training. Because what if I go over there and the enemy starts yelling at me the way you did, and it breaks me? Well, I'd rather have my buddy hazing me and picking on me, or call it whatever you want. So when I get over there and I have to deal, and we're having a business meeting, or somebody else starts messing with me or talking like that, and I fold. Because no one can make fun of me like I can make fun of myself.
How long you to handle real pressure, right?
I mean, what are we talking about here? You
Yeah.
train the body, that's pressure. You train the mind. That's just the way it is. You want that, and you want the guys who are really good at it. Like, take you off your game. Like them real, we got some guys that are real good at talking smack, right? Like, you come up with some stuff like, man, how did you come up with it? It's so good. I started laughing, right? And you need that, because those one-liners or whatever it is, man, that helps.
Yeah.
Especially if you know they love you.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, I mean, that's, and I'll run across some people like, man, I'll hang out with him. I don't like it. I was like, man, that's his style. That's his style, man. That's how he delivers his message. Appreciate that. Because if he didn't like you, you know it. Like, if it was just a problem. Like, if you coming at me like you hate me, or you want to get, we can do that, right?
Yeah.
Or if it's not like that, then it's a point. I mean, those standards are set. Imagine, like, people work for their boss, like, I'm smarter than that guy. I can run this. I'm like, well, yeah, why aren't you? Because in reality, you're not.
Yeah.
Right? He's there to
you would be.
Yeah, he's coming down on you to teach you something about yourself. Because if you can't deal with him, the next person you run into probably going to be a lot harder. That's what they don't anticipate. That's how the boss works, man. God works in funny ways. Like, everything is to teach you something about yourself. I mean, I get picked on daily. Still. It's hilarious sometimes.
Your buddies don't let up, do they?
No, ever. And the minute I think, I was like, oh, I think I'm good. I don't even say that out loud anymore, really. Because, it's just come down, right?
Yeah.
And then when you start giggling like that, you understand it, man, life takes on a different spice, different taste. Because then, you're a team. And there's I don't want to deal with, no, I want to deal with him. Give me all you got. Teaching me something.
Lean into it. Marcus, as a SEAL operator, and all the training that goes into preparing you to be the most effective, I mean, the most lethal human weapon on the face of the planet is a Navy SEAL, right? When you then phase out, you go from this just being unleashed when it's necessary. How do you come back into a civilian momentum, if you can even call it that, when it's high momentum in SEALs?
Yeah.
And then adjust to just, you go into the grocery store and all the things that you've done, that's in your memory of the things that you were crushing in life, right? As a SEAL, and then you're going through, and it's like uprooted and planted. Does it take the same mental fortitude to readjust as it did to get to that level?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was the hardest thing for me until I learned it, how to deal with it.
Really?
I had to teach myself. And this is what I did. So, yeah, if it's funny, you change names, right? You change the description. Like, hey, man, you're getting out, you got to get a job, wife, kids, you got to be a husband. And you took that SEAL moniker. But a SEAL is just the most important little part of that SEAL is the S on the end of it. SEALs, it's specialist. It's sea, air, and land specialist, right? So I was talking to my buddies the other day. He's like, there's no job for snipers out. And I was like, well, there's no job for that job title. But everything that goes into making a sniper, there is. Now, if we were in the SEAL teams and we were in this platoon space, and I looked over at you, I was like, hey, bro, I need to do something for a couple of years, right? You're still a SEAL. You're operational. But I need you to marry this hot chick. I need you to knock her up. You're still a SEAL. This is a mission. All right? Going to the grocery store is a freaking mission. I would tear that up. That would be wait, really? I'm not getting shot at? All I have to do is hang around her and like raise these kids up? I would seal that. I mean, I'd be all over it. And that's what I had to do. So every time I get up in the morning, I'm like, all right, we're going to the grocery store, get ready. I'll have that, what do you need? I was like, how long would it take me to get through that aisle? Right? And every time I go to do a new school, or I take the kids, or I'm teaching them something, I was like, okay, I'll team guy it. Sometimes I vision my head, growing the handlebar mustache with the sunglasses and trying to talk to them like that. But inwardly, I'm undercover. Like, you're just undercover. And when you tell guys like that, they're like, oh, I thought I was coming off the line. Like, no, you ain't coming off the line, man, because you're just a specialist. We're putting you in something else. And there's my new swim buddy. She's sitting right over there. Like, SEALs, we already have women. Y'all just don't know about them. And once I started doing that, thinking about it like that, I was like, everything is my swim buddy, and we're doing it the way I drive. Tactical, I was trained to do that, and everything in between. Is like, if I'm a specialist, why is this hard? Why is this hard? I was like, well, yeah, I miss my buddies, But the sexiest mission in the SEAL teams is when we go out doing that covert stuff, kind of like 1s and 2s. They didn't know about it. That was the greatest thing. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm just undercover. I mean, it's tough, just like it was in the teams, right? But and then sometimes our team got too hard, and she's like, "Settle down." And but I truly had to think about it like that. It was like it's a forever uniform. We wear it for a little while. We could put our name on it. I took it off, passed it over. Somebody else put the tape on it, and now I'm out here doing this. Imagine you never get out of training. From the time we step out into an adult, every school we go to is in life is part of your life cycle, your training cycle. In the beginning, when we're young, they put us in buildings with teachers around us so they can watch you so you don't do dumb stuff. And then we get in the field. That's field training. And then so every 10 years maybe, as you grow, you transition to a new job or to a new team. And then, but you still keep those skill sets. You just have to learn to reapply them, just like we would do it in the field. Like when we would lose, something would break or something. Like, well, how do we roll, man? How do we get this fixed? All right, let's just think about this. Let's do it like this. That's the same thing. You don't lose any of those skill sets. You just take the uniform off. And I mean, I once I started thinking about it like that, I was like, all right, I can do this. I can get that done. But I miss my buddies, obviously. That's a big transition, that life. No wife, no kids, and running like that, as opposed to it just is. But it was cool because it's actually settling down. That's why I call it settling down.
Right. Yeah.
you're not supposed to settle up, right? You're not supposed to get fired. You're settling down. Like, hey, just kind of calm down and relax. And the biggest thing with me is I forgot how to relax. Like I would be in the middle of something, and not that I wasn't enjoying it, but right through the middle of it, I would start thinking about what we were doing next, and I'd start prepping for that. And what's your favorite part of your movie or book? It's the ending, right? It's always at the end, man. So enjoy it every moment that you're in until it's over. Don't try to get through it fast. I don't care if you're eating, taking a dump, whatever it is, man. Enjoy the moment you're in. And then when the next one shows up, enjoy that one. Because the minute you try to overdo it and get past it, man, I think you miss something. The gift.
Yeah.
If you don't take anything away from every moment that you had, I think you might have overlooked it. And it took me forever to quarantine. They literally locked me down. All I did was fish, and we went back to the farm. We raised them kids, and we had a blast. I mean, it was terrible for our country, everything like that, man, but I learned how to slow down.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have done that without having to go through that. It's funny because before the quarantine, I remember you hear everybody's like, man, if I could just sit at home, I'd get more work done. I'd raise my kids. So what happens? Boom, pandemic. Everyone's bitching now. I'm at home all the time. My damn kids are here. I hate them. I'm in the computer all the time. You know what I mean? It's because we got told what to do. And the minute you tell us what to do, we don't like that. But if you're like, hey, could you please, or if you challenge them, like, I don't think you can sit at the house and fish. Yeah. I'm like, oh, watch this. Yeah. Am I right? You know, and it's just, it's all a matter of how you look at it. Because somebody will come at you with this one way and it's negative. I'm like, no, that's the wrong way. I don't give a damn what you heard. It's what you're hearing right now. And when you think about it like that, it opens up, and it continues to open up.
You have a lot of guys that come to you, Marcus, that have come out of service, kind of looking for a little help, or like, how do I adjust now? Do you get a lot of guys that come to you? That's
what I was supposed to do. So I was trained by the best. I wasn't the best. I was just trained by them to handle all this. And if I had questions, there's people I could call. So the guys now, they know when they come out, they either come to the house, and yes, that's what my job. That was my promise to make sure that I was always there.
Is that, for most guys that come out of the teams, is that like a commitment they make when they come out?
It just depends when they come out and how they came out. Like it's all different. We're all different. Imagine taking one guy from each walk of life in the United States and putting them into one little fraternity. I mean, the personalities and it was so much. Thank you for having the SEAL team. Thanks for inventing that. I mean, I ain't keeping it around, man. Literally the best part. I mean, that was so much fun running around with them guys. So when they get out now, you can look at them a certain way, but I know what's in there. And if you had access to one of them and you can't believe what they're capable of, you train them to do anything. That's what that means. Being a SEAL, you can train to do anything. If there's somebody out there doing something, you can do it. Don't think that you can't. I don't care what it is. If someone else can do it, you can. And if anybody's told you different, they're lying to you. Straight up. You can tell them I said that. Because you're blessed with a gift down here. If you have a disability, it's called a distinct ability. There's something in there that once one thing gets removed, there's something else tapped in there that elevates. You just got to find out what it is.
It's not a disability; it's a distinct ability.
Yeah, 100%.
But people get hung up on as it's a limitation.
Yeah, aesthetics and limitations.
Yeah.
Nope. That's not what that is.
So you've got Team Never Quit, and I mean, there's a lot of layers in that of what you've got, right? Because you've got your podcast and your show with you and your brother. You guys sit down with all kinds of crazy characters. A lot.
Yeah. United, same. Yeah.
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 And I mean, that seems like that's like a heart-driven mission for you, right? What was kind of the idea behind Team Never Quit?
And everybody, the requirements to get into it is you have to have your ass kicked to be in a bad situation. You've had to get down to the bottom and you're climbing back up. Because once you've been beat like that, what's up? You know, that fear is gone. Like you build it and let's go. And hearing those stories, it's like everyone gets put in different situations, but they use kind of the same skill sets to get through them. And their stories are great. Like, man, you can't believe what happened to some of these people. And then the message they deliver afterwards, like never quit, you know, be on time, get up a little bit. It's like a handful of things that make the billionaires or the professional athletes. They all say the same stuff. And then I would ask them this. I was like, okay, I get that. I was like, but you know how there's a little trick that each one of us use to figure something out? It's like when a teacher tries to explain some math lesson. I was teaching my kid the nines the other day. I was like, so you know 9 plus anything is a number underneath it in teens. So 9 plus 7 was 7, 6 is under that, so it's 16. 9 plus 5, it's 5, is 14, right? I didn't know that. Like there were times I'd be like 9 plus, I was like, is there a trick to everything? And they're like, yes, there is, right? and people will go through life and they'll figure out these tricks, man. They'll be awesome at something. And they'll be like, hey, man, can you tell me something? Like, yeah, get up on time, make sure you eat healthy. I'm like, no, give me that crap. I know all that. I was like, give me that trick, right? Give me that trick that taught you that. And it's there. A lot of people don't want to give us like that secret recipe in the family. But with us, I was like, man, I'll tell you everything I know. Every little thing I had to use, because that's what it takes. When somebody explains something to you and you just don't get it, and then somebody will say something insignificant, and you're like, that's what that is? Why didn't you lead with that? You understand? Yeah. And once I started seeing that, that's kind of, I was like, all right. So there's a trick or a hidden little key, like in video games. Like this is the game of life. There's those hidden codes. Yeah. It's just a matter of going to each person, finding them, and whether or not they'll give them to you.
God, my son does that with Minecraft. All kinds of like hidden keys.
Man, I know, right? I was like, what is that?
It's unbelievable.
My 10-year-old levels me all the time with some of the knowledge coming. I'm like, where'd you even hear that?
What's the trick?
I know, what's the trick? I'm like, all right, son, don't tell your mother I asked you this, but what's the trick on that? And everybody has that. And a lot of times, like I spend a lot of time in the airport with people watch. You just watch people do stuff, how they, you learn more doing that. Yeah. That was the best part about Recon, just sitting back, not saying, just watching. You start to laugh, right? I mean, the human plight, the human tragedies, the comedy and happiness all in between, right? You got one guy eating the food, you can tell he loves it's favorite food. He takes a bite in it, spills all over his brain. He's like, it's always something, right? And when you start seeing that, you're like, all right, man, there's really no reason to get so upset. We're killing each other. You know,
over kind of really petty things.
Yeah, it's all petty. Don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff.
That's a good saying.
It's one of the best.
Yeah,
it's one of the best.
That's really good.
When I heard it, I was like, well, that's probably the best thing I ever heard. I heard it, I was running across this lady, she's one of the elders, and I was like, man, I always ask for some wisdom from me when I get a chance to be around you. I was like, can you pass something to me? She's like, don't sweat the small stuff because it's all small stuff. I was like, yes, ma'am. I was like, the way I heard it was don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff. And she's like, that's a good one too. And but yeah, have you ever noticed like the elders, man, they condense it. Like they say stuff real short and sweet. Yeah. But it says so much. With us, we were like, hey, they try to explain it, and then you get to that middle age or you're a professor or something, and they're like, well, in reality, this. I'm like, no. Give me that short version, like the elder version. But we stick all them in homes and get rid of them. You don't want to listen to them talk, but man, they teach you so much. That's the beautiful thing about our family. I mean, we keep them around. And they just teach us so
That's the wisdom. They've got 90,000-foot view.
What's up, man?
Right? They've tasted life. They felt it.
Yeah.
And then it gets condensed into nuggets, right? Yeah.
And they sum it up because our attention spans are so short at that, like, right? And
we're still in a hurry. We're trying to get to the end.
In a damn hurry.
Yeah. Marcus, what is next for you, man? Like it's just been a lot with, now that your brother's about to take the limelight, you might be able to take a little bit of it. Yeah.
So, my wife wants me to open up a school and start training kids again with discipline and manners and respect and
really
kind of how to take care of themselves. And then are you
gonna be the new Billy?
Yes.
Nope.
That's where you're supposed to be. Like I was blessed for all that. I mean, you have to pass that down. Otherwise, all the knowledge dies with me. And she wants me to be a deacon at the church. So I have to start studying that, and I'm boring now, man. That's just the way she likes me, bro. I don't know what to say. I mean, I can feel the tension coming out of her right now. We're not supposed to talk about that. It's fun. I'm excited about it. New chapter in life.
New mission.
Yeah. And we were talking about earlier. I was like, man, I have plenty to do, but I don't have anything to do. I was like, I don't have to be anywhere, but I got everywhere to go. And I'm excited about that new part to put all my energy into it. And I'm just wait. I wait right until it shows, just like being a SEAL. It'll be delivered right in front. I'll know. I'll shift and I won't be able to turn my attention off of it. But I know it has something to do with paying it back and teaching the younger generation how wonderful this is, how wonderful everybody is around us.
You let me know that day, because my son is coming to you.
Yeah, I in the summertime, it's great because Pete Berg, I'm all still buddies with everybody I meet.
Oh,
I'd rather have a friend than money any day. My father said, "You've been trying to make a best friend in every town. You'll never be lonely, and you won't need any money or hungry. Right? You just be." So they send their kids out to live with us over the summer, and I train them, mentor them. I got to teach one kid how to drive the tractor, one kid how to work the chainsaw, and then the kid who, after 3 days, then they had to teach each other how to do the opposite. So there's kind of a and then we'd work out, and I teach them how to defend themselves and just manners, respect, discipline, and respect. Same thing was taught to me. And it's not that hard. It's just putting the time in. And sometimes I think all the professional athletes, why aren't they coaches after they retire? Like, why aren't they, and they live in their community? Why aren't you a coach at the high school? If you have all that gift and they look up to you anyways, why you wouldn't do that? And our generation is different. I think we want to do that. I mean, you're busy focusing on your kids. You can't be focusing on war. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just I that's how I feel. I know that's the direction I have to go. I can feel it already. I just didn't know on capacity. And then hanging out with y'all. I mean, doing this, rebuilding what we're fixing to get handed. There's a power change going on right now. We're coming into the breach. That's kind of my brother stepping in, and we are too. So what are we going to do with this place?
Man, it's heavy times, Marcus. It is weird.
That's all right. We got broad shoulders. And we lift a lot of weight together. It doesn't weigh nothing. Doesn't weigh nothing at all.
I think, for me, and because of social media, and people throw shade, they'll throw out a little bit of something that could be a skewed truth, skewed propaganda, and it's hard for people to kind of dive in and figure out, with all these just infinite information being thrown out, to try to dive in and go, what's really the truth? And then maybe somebody in media that they've trusted for a long time now is caught up in a propaganda machine. And it's, the voices of how do you navigate this kind of stuff? And then this distrust or lack of confidence now in what we believe to be a government that, we thought was looking out for us, now kind of starting to second guess that, right?
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
I think that'll be our hardest challenge, to figure out that, to bring stability back into our institutions. Because you're right. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. You got to think that anybody that goes in there don't want this place to be torn down. Yeah. So whatever you're hearing coming out of the media, it's probably the worst on both sides. There's the other, it's probably not like you got to center it back up. Yeah. But you're right. You're right.
I mean, it was last year.
I don't even have an answer to that, man. We have to do it together, one day at a time. How do you rebuild your respect? One day at a time. One evolution, 1 hour at a time. And then you talk about people talking about truths. Everyone's truths can be different. Depends on where you grow up. Facts are facts. That's what was it, Dragnet? He's like, just the facts, ma'am. Like, I don't give me that truth. I don't care about all that other sexy shit. Just give me the fact.
Yeah.
What's happening. And then I see that, man. It's right?
We've got guys like your
there's
brother.
so many specialists out there that come on different news organizations just saying different things, especially during the pandemic. That was terrible. Mm-hmm. That was terrible.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying something different.
Nobody knew what to believe.
No one knew what to believe. And rightfully so. That ain't on us.
Yeah.
That's leaders not leading. That's how you know that. Whoever's up there not a leader.
Got guys like your brother, Dan Crenshaw, another one, that are coming out of SEAL teams, high-level operatives in service, and now leading in a different way. It's like, okay.
Well, we learn how important details are. How important it is to stand for like you're going to see both sides of it, man, but stand in the middle and make sure that everyone understands that, hey, like, I'm not here for any other reason to make sure this is done for you, not for myself. But it's tough. Our people are vocal and very opinionated.
That's the generation.
Yeah. Especially our millennials. I think with them, people come down on them pretty hard, but we should kind of try to understand what they're going through, man. That iPhone tells the future. If we had one of those back in the 90s, you could have played, Big Boss, right?
Yeah.
So they have all the information. They don't have enough life experience. So they'll throw the wrong emotion out. Something will go down, and they'll do something like, where'd you
Just
get
reactive.
that? Yeah,
Just-
reactive, just like that, instead of letting it play out. And then we're all connected. Like people getting upset about something, somebody wrote something on a different country, right? Just making a comment on it. Probably a bad one, too. Keyboard courage, right? Because you can standing in front of somebody and saying it's completely different than writing it over that. And
they punch in the face.
Yeah, punch in the face, exactly. And that's what happened to us. And since there would never be an opportunity for that to happen. They don't understand that. And that's why, people get hurt or they get upset and then they'll go do something to somebody else. When in reality, that's like plugging into a video game. You get mad at your video game when it yells at you, when it kills you, when it talks smack to you. Video games talk smack all the time, right? That's how I started looking at it. I was like, oh, video game. Now I can't talk smack. And if you want to, you come find me. I'm not hard to find. So it's like that, but that's part of growing up too.
Yeah.
And with us, if we're the hybrids and they're the next generation, man. We just got to stay with them. Just don't give up on them.
It's not a lack of commitment. What I've seen with this millennial generation is they'll give everything, but they need definable purpose attached to it.
Yeah.
We'll go all in because, well, we're just going to go for it. Right? We don't necessarily need a purpose to it. We just need to know that, well, I'm going to do this. They need a real purpose behind whether it's their job or working out. The selfie they're going to take to be an influencer.
Like that. That's good. That's good. That's funny. He's like, why are we doing this? Well, why not?
Yeah.
Why throw this ball at that wall? Well, what for? Because I don't know.
Might be cool.
Might be cool. Might not be cool. Yeah, that was kind of us, right? And with them, they're logical, right? Till almost to a point where it becomes illogical.
They need a why with everything.
Yeah.
And not that I don't ask questions, but it's more purpose driven.
Yeah, that's something with them, man. They're great. They're great. Our oldest is in that generation, man. They're going to be fine. Remember what they said about us. I remember all that smack our parents talking about us, man. They were like, you ain't going to do nothing. You got this education, you're working at the house, we'll be all right.
Almost creates a chip though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay, watch me.
Right.
But then you kind of lose that because you realize that they don't care. Now you just got to prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Or they cared enough for that to do that very thing.
That's true.
I I always thought my dad was coming down on me, and he passed, and I'm a father now. I was like, I get it. I get what he was saying. And if he didn't do everything he had to do to me, then I wouldn't be the man that I am. So why would I yell at him for that? Back then, I didn't understand it. It's tough being a parent. Man, it's so hard. It's so hard. I can see my kids. I love them. I don't want them to have to. I was like, and I talked to my buddies about this. I was like, I don't want you to have to go through that pain. I'm like, wait a minute. I went through that pain, and it produced this.
Yeah.
Get your ass out there, and, right?
Is it that natural protector part of being a dad, right?
It's biggest with the mothers. Yeah. Like there were times that when I would kind of get onto the kids about something, and she would come in there, and I thought that she was getting in the way of that, like taking their side. In reality, she's taking my side, but that mother instinct they can't help that. I could feel it when she would be stressed. I'm like, why are you getting all stressed out? They needed that. She can't help it. It's a mother instinct. And once I figured that out, it helped a lot. It's just like, like I said, we met on a blind date. I didn't know much about nothing, but I had to learn on the fly. But yeah, they're special. There's a reason why they're here.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord.
Half the time, I think it's more teaching me with my kids than I could ever teach them anything. It is a, man, you talk about a role of service. Oh my, it is. I second guess myself every day. I mean, it's like, it's hard, man.
With the kids, they say something like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe he does know what he's talking about. It's like it's special deliveries, right? Sometimes when they throw out the perfect line at the perfect time, you're like, okay, all right.
On that, my son, it was a couple of weeks ago, we were all watching some movie. Some line came up, and my 15-year-old, he goes, "That's what she said." And it was so good. All right, props, bro. Yeah. Like, even my wife was like, okay, that was pretty good. Wow.
Yeah. They'll even do that when I'm disciplining them. I was saying something the other day, and he's like, well, point in fact, Dad, you told me not to do this, but you said it like this, and that's just how, and I was like, all right, logic. Don't be logical when I'm trying to discipline you. Yeah. But, yeah, that's great.
Marcus, as a dad, and I'm honestly curious, I was raised from an iron fist, my mother. I mean, it was wild growing up. My dad was very much the quiet, the loving kind of guy until Mom said, you got to swat the crap out of him. Right. He did his thing and went back to work or whatever. But come from that life and being raised the way that you were raised with your dad, and then coming through the teams, and it creates a certain level of discipline and almost expectation of just people around you to a degree, but especially our kids. How do you find a balance with that? With discipline, accountability, raising our kids. Do you find yourself having to not so much draw a hard line, that you may have with your brothers or your buddies, or just in a career being older? But just as a parent, I've got a 15, 13, and a 2. And how do you from your seat be able to find that level, or is there a balance of discipline and accountability that leads without just being necessarily just an iron fist that just swings and creates damage?
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah.
So in the military, but I always had someone outrank me, and even if I didn't like what they were saying, I'd be like, Roger that. So she's the boss. She's the admiral of the house. Runs the show. Like if kids get out of line, I hear her raise her voice, I'll come in, I'm like, baby, say something. That's all I have to say. I'll shift on them. They know. And I said, I'm not their friend. I'm your father. I mean, which means I love you more than anybody, but I will tune you up. No pun intended. But,
that was well done. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Time for your tune up. Yeah. But I can hear her voice no matter what state of mind I'm in. That's how I know she was the one. So even when I'm engaged, man, she can pull me off of it, or she'll step in front of me and take it. And I'll shovel back. I'm like, get, and then have to walk outside and kind of whatever. And she takes that because that takes practice. It takes practice. And I train kids now, and everything teaches me. I train professional athletes, so there's kind of a everyday kind of each age reacts differently. Up until my kids. Now there's bottom line hard fact. Like I'll tell them to do something, and I don't ever discipline when I'm angry. Like if and truth be told, I've never really gotten angry down here. I'll get serious, and there's a difference. But man, that's a great question. I think if we could answer that when we write a book. What? You know what I'm talking about? But that's why a team's important, and your buddies and reacting. I was like, man, if my father did this to me, and the biggest thing I always try to do is immediately shift myself to my kid stage. I never forgot what it was like to be a kid. Yeah. And I was, okay, so if this was my dad fixing to tune me up, how would I wish he would have done it? Yeah. And then I'll even call one of my oldest boy pulled it. He had a stunt the other day. It was a pretty good one. And I had actually done the same thing when I was in college. He was in college too. his mother was upset, and so it was me and a buddy of mine. I called him. I was like, "Hey, remember when we jumped the?" It's not important. I'm going to talk about it online, but I was like, "What? When your dad tuned you up, what would you have wished he would have done?" He's like, "He should have taken this away from me. He should have done this to me." And I was like, "Roger that," and that's what I did. And then my son's like, I asked him. He's like, "Yeah, that's what." It's good. It's okay to ask, because I could take it to the far extreme and just, you could. You don't want to hurt them, you don't want to break their spirit, but you have to discipline them, because somebody out there will, right? If you don't take the time to do it. And I put stress on my kid. Like, look, the situation will be perfect, and I'll stress my kids out. Like, I'll lean on them just because I want to see them react, because I'm the one that can take it off. But when they get out there in the world and they're walking around, somebody won't take it off of them, and it could crush them. So just like I train my kids to get dressed and to eat, I also train them to deal with stress. I try to put them in every scenario that I can think of. If I see something go down on TV, or if out in the public, or if I remember something, I'm like, all right. And then I formulate it in my head. I was like, how could I stress my kids out and see how they react to this? And then I'll lean on them a little bit, and then I'll pull it off.
Because the point is to help.
Train, teach. I mean, everything's in there, but you got to put them in the scenario. Otherwise, I'm not going to know. So what kind of damage are you doing? Oh, I get it. You want somebody else to do the damage. Roger that. So how much do you really love your kid?
Either you do it or the world will.
Yeah, are you going to send somebody else out there to hurt them? That's what you're telling me? That's what you're telling me, right? I don't see it like that. I was like, man, you're the one that's supposed to train them. You're the one that brought them into the world. The most dangerous thing down here is an undisciplined human mind, and premature panic is a sign of an undisciplined mind. So when you see them getting through stuff or going through something, my daughter had her tonsils out. So before the surgery, I laid her down. We had on one of the couches, dressed up in a gown, covered out, dressed up in my scrubs, put my doctor suit on, mask, stethoscope. And I was like, all right, it's going to feel a little pinch. It's going to kind of feel like that, And then we went over for a couple of weeks, I think. She went and got her tonsils out. When she woke up, I think she's like, I'm ready for him to put them back in. I was like, yes. I mean, like it was nothing. Like training. We were ready for it. It's
preparedness.
Yeah, I put the thing over her face like this is gas, and this is what it's going to feel like on your little nose, My daughter. And I don't even know how to discipline her. I mean, it's unbelievable. She's got me figured out.
That is their job, man. They do it really well.
Daddy's little girl, man. My son, he gets out of line. I'll just, boy.
Yeah. It's different with a girl.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. And anybody tells you different is trying to sell something.
Mush, man.
Yeah. But yes, just cripples you, man. But I try and do that. I try to put them in every scenario and train them up. So this is what's going to happen. This is how this works. This is what some people will say. They're doing basketball camp. So I played basketball with them the other day, man. I started talking smack to them. They're like, well, I was like, well, you're in my house, man. You come on my court. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And that's all part of it. It's all part of it.
Is that, now it's not every single SEAL, but there seems to be a community of SEALs who have come out and who have really taken the mission of leadership training, like Jocko, right?
Yeah.
With Echelon Front.
Great guy.
JP Donnell and all these guys that there are guys that are taking this mission and bringing it to the business space, right? Leadership management. Is that because of the training you come from and the sheer dependency of real good leadership?
They were leaders in our community before. They were our leaders. Jocko was one of the best battlefield commanders. He guy's a war fighter. You ever notice how I was talking about this the other day? I was like, his face looks like it perfectly fit into a Spartan helmet.
That is true.
Like he should be swinging an axe at somebody's head back in the day, kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He just, I ripped him out. He was at Team 3. I came in with Team 5, and he was the commander over there. And you want somebody to fight, he'll go. That sucker will go.
Looks like he still would.
He will still go. And he is, and leadership, yeah, he was a great leader. All those guys, when they come out, and that's what they do. I mean, they were something.
It seems to be a lot of demand for that kind of training or bringing people in to an organization, a company, to come even talk about leadership because of just the sheer extreme of leadership and operations within the teams, of how an organization can kind of take a percentage of that into their culture.
Well, think about what they do to us. They send us over to foreign countries to take down, like a handful of us, just a handful of us, to take down the entire country, to reformulate how the government works. And you start with the individual in the village. like with the people. And then they have to write up all the missions, and they have to send that up through every wicket and through every branch of the military, because we're more like bastards. We get handed off to the Army and the Marine Corps. Who do you think rescues us when we get in trouble? That's when they come. That's bragging rights. I mean, we were talking about that earlier. That's a real thing, right? Yeah. Like, where's that bravado come from 82nd to 101st to SEALs to Rangers? Like, well, first of all, who's been around longest? What scrap you've been in? Because if you don't watch Band of Brothers on Memorial Day and Veterans Day, man, you're wrong, right? I mean, that's what we watch. True. I don't watch movies on SEALs. I watch stuff like that. Yeah. And when you learn how to communicate with them, because we all speak different languages, our uniforms are different colors, but when we fight, man, it's on. It's just like the United States. We come together. We're just like one team, one fight. Like, we're mutts. We've literally been kicked out of every other country through time until we got here to ours. And now here we are. Right?
Wow, never thought about
and we
that.
live and die with each other. Yeah. Every different breed. It's like this, the perfect pound. And man, yeah, there's some of those dogs, the dogs of war, the Marines. Friggin' don't mess with them dudes. I mean, they're set up to go in and just decimate. Rangers set up to do a certain thing. 82nd, boom, come from the sky. You ever heard that? You know what a man of war is? Jellyfish. Yeah. What it looks like. You ever heard Men at War when they come in on those parachutes? The same thing. Yeah. Like blue skies, blue ocean. They drop down, man. Stand by. That's what the inside of a can of whoop ass looks like. When the freaking. Yeah. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any problem bragging about anybody because I had to work with all of them. I was trained under most of them. I'm a bastard. And you see that, and then you have our leaders who get this stuff done. We're kids. And we're in our early 20s when they sent us over there.
That's amazing.
It was like the best adventure ever. It's like literally signing up to get on an adventure team to go into Babylon. I fought in Babylon. I mean, all the palaces and everything you see everywhere. Think about that. I mean, throughout time, people have always been fighting. I got a chance to do that in Afghanistan and everywhere in between. With a handful of us. We had our own boat and a helicopter. I could have never afford that any other time. I was like, I got not only that, I got jets.
You gonna pay me to do this?
Somewhere around here, right? Hey, let's play with all these cool toys just because I was willing to take pain and bleed for y'all. And once our people, when you come back and the Americans, man, once they, anybody, once they find out you don't want anything, you bleed for them. Like if something bad happens, the dude will step up and take the hit. Fine, dude. They cut us a little slack because we're willing to do that. Most people won't. And there's like a. I like to joke, God has his own redhead, his stepchildren he keeps outside and lit in the house, right? In case something bad goes down, that's us. Right? I mean, they exist. And, but they develop a place for us and we have our own opportunity to go do things. And when we're not working, do we get in a little trouble? Yeah, we're kind of rowdy, boys be boys, but we serve our purpose and it's always out of respect. And once y'all see that, normally y'all didn't know about it just because of late in the media and a lot of us dying and stuff like that, you got wind of what we do. So the respect you guys give us, whether it's earned or not, is way more than probably we deserve. And it's a blessing. Truly is, man.
I think for most people, when you get wind of, we see so many that serve and their families go off and they serve in all the different branches. But when you get wind of stories like this, I mean, it just puts people in awe because it just seems too unreal. Yeah. Right. That people would be willing to do that. Right. But we need those warriors. Yeah. We need those people willing to be on the front lines, take the hit, bleed, and to help everyone else. I mean, you've said, I lost count how many times where you were saying, you let me do this, did this for us. I mean, you're looking at us right here doing that. And that's there's no response for that, honestly, Marcus, because what you did was of service. But then.
Isn't that great? Y'all do that? I can't believe it. Thank you so much, man. I mean, I can't believe it that y'all let us do that. That y'all developed, y'all created a place and kept it around for us to have that. I'd have never. Isn't that amazing? Y'all did that for us. I can't thank you enough. If you only knew, I mean, it was hell. It was, man. But it was the best thing I ever experienced and all my buddies and what we got to go do. And I thank you for that. Just thanks.
Marcus, you're an incredible man. Truly, it's been an honor to get to know you.
Oh, we're gonna have fun, guys. Come on, this is just the beginning.
So, for people that are watching, if they want to support you, your mission, what you got going on, how do they do that? Where do they go?
Well, you can go to teamneverquit.com. I have the Lone Survivor Foundation. You can find me anywhere. Actually, MarcusLuttrell.com. I'm trying to think about it. You know, funny, people ask me that. I'm like, man, I can't even believe people ask that. Isn't that funny? And some of the organizations that I'm allowed to be a part of, I wish I could tell you all about every single one of them, man. We'd be here all day. There's so many great organizations out there. But the Lone Survivor Foundation was the first one that I started, and it started off my own experience. I have a Lone Survivor Foundation. Like, my foundation of my whole being was because I was the only guy to come out of there. And it built something inside of me that when I got back, y'all put me back together. Put me back online, let me go back. I mean, I'm all titanium now. That's the coolest thing I ever heard of. I mean, if, Wolverine's adamantium, I got the titanium, whatever. I was just... I couldn't, it was amazing. And then I kept going back. Every time I get hurt, y'all put me back together. And then if it worked on me to heal me, then I recreated it for the guys coming out. That was kind of my job. And each one of the organizations that I founded are for that very purpose.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's a blessing. How many people it helps and what we're doing. But I never look back, ever. I just keep going forward, trying to grab as many as I can.
What's the point of looking back? Other than take notes and get a lesson, well, you just keep moving forward.
Make sure everybody's still back there.
I mean, there's a reason why the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield.
That's right. Right.
And
I was trying to, one of them guys that led from the middle. I was like, man, my flanks, you covering down. Let's just get online and go and push. There's nobody better, nobody worse. We're all right here in the same line.
Marcus, thank you for your time today.
Yeah. It was a blast. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, man. I really do appreciate it. And signing these books for our team, and just for all of us, like, anything we do to help support you and your brother, like, we're here with you guys.
I appreciate it. Yeah, the anniversary's coming up, so I'm always remembering it, and I remember it every day. But this month's always something about June, right?
Well, what's forever going to be in our office, Marcus, was with our Remember the Fallen campaign, and we wrote every guy's name down on our poster.
That's cool.
It's going to stay in here. I mean, you're a local guy, right?
Yeah.
And it means a lot to us, but it needs to mean a lot to a lot of people. But this book, the movie, keeping their names out there keeps their stories alive, right?
See if I can't dig something up, send you guys. It's cool. You can't, the treasure people send me. That was one of the other blessings, what I get to see and receive. Yeah. But it doesn't do me any good having all that. You put it somewhere else where everybody else can enjoy it. So, see, I got some stuff to enjoy.
We'll be honored. Marcus, thank you again.
Yep, thank you. I'll take care. Yeah.